You're feeding it.
I will, I promise.
Thanks to our Premier Rewards Visa credit card from ICCU, we earned enough cash back to stock up on puppy supplies.
But we don't have a puppy.
Herramientas necesarias a la mano. Asegura bien tu carga y pídeles a otros que hagan lo mismo. Cargas bien sujetadas, caminos más seguros. Aprende más en sujetatucarga.wa.org.
Get the facts this election season with Verify. Whether you're a new mom, a sports mom, or tackling the teen years, we have the advice to help make the toughest job out there a little easier. Join our Mom Squad.
Hurricane Idalia hit Florida's west coast.
After the mass shooting, all of Nashville is coming together.
Get the latest headlines from near and far in the news.
Welcome to our streaming channel. Here you can catch up on all the latest news, weather, and sports you need. Countless hours of fresh, original content you can watch at any speed. Everything you love about local, plus so much more.
It's an election year, and we know it can be hard to spot disinformation. Whether it's conversations with friends or what you see online, Verify is dedicated to helping you distinguish between what's real and what's fake this election season. From spotting artificial intelligence and manipulated social media to fact-checking claims from the candidates, the Verify team is here to make sure you understand what's true and what's false before you vote. Get the facts this election season with Verify.
If you're looking for great local programming and more, you found it. Welcome to our streaming channel. Here you can catch up on all the latest news, weather, and sports you need. Countless hours of fresh, original content you can watch at any speed. To stay up to date on what's happening above you, around you, or around the world. Stay in the national know or binge watch your own backyard. Stream everything you love about local, plus so much more.
Get the facts this election season with Verify.
Here.
Welcome back to Up with Krem. There are a lot of headlines today, so here are three stories we are following this morning. Up first, this weekend, Democrats from across Idaho will meet in Moscow for the state's Democratic Party convention. The two-day event starts this Saturday on the University of Idaho's Moscow campus. The free event includes several different committee meetings and networking events. For the full schedule or to register, you can go to the website there on your screen. We also have this on krem.com. Tomorrow, Expo 74 is partnering with the Lands Council for the Legislative Summit. The full-day event includes keynote speeches by Washington Governor Jay Inslee and Spokane Mayor Lisa Brown. The free event runs from 7:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. tomorrow at the Spokane Convention Center Ballroom. You can register to attend the event through the link there on your screen. We want to remind you tonight, Krem 2 night is at the Indians game today. Mark, Whitney, and Jeremy, as well as Travis, will be out of Vista Stadium tonight ahead of the game at 6:35. So come on out, support the Indians, and meet the team. Today is the summer solstice, the first day of astronomical summer, and today's summer solstice will be the earliest in 228 years. The U.S. Naval Observatory says the last time it happened was on June 20th, 1796, The summer solstice gives the northern hemisphere the most daylight hours of the entire year, and the exact time of the solstice is the moment the sun reaches its highest point in the sky, and that will likely be around 1:50 p.m. Pacific time.
That means 16 hours flat of daylight for today, exactly our longest daytime of the year. And we'll have every single second filled with sunshine today. 82 degrees, mostly sunny skies today. It'll be pretty close to 90 degrees for this weekend.
Locked On NBA Podcast.
The Celtics are significantly better. Like, all right, are we sure the Celtics are...
Get the facts this election season.
The Celtics are significantly better.
If you're looking for great local programming,
All right, are we sure the Celtics are...
here you can catch up on all the latest news, weather, and sports you need. Countless hours of fresh, original content you can watch at any speed. To stay up to date on what's happening above you, around you, or around the world. Stay in the national know or binge watch your own backyard. Stream everything you love about local, plus so much more. Welcome to our streaming channel. Here you can catch up on all the latest news, weather, and sports you need. Countless hours of fresh, original content you can watch at any speed. Everything you love about local, plus so much more. It's an election year, and we know it can be. Here you can catch up on all the latest news, conversations with friends, or what you need. Countless hours of fresh, original content you can watch in what's real and what's fake this local, plus so much more. Artificial intelligence and manipulated social media to fact-checking claims from the candidates. The Verify team is here to make sure you understand what's true and what's false before you vote. Get the facts that the
I know they got our back. So we
false before you vote. Get the facts this election season.
Upload your logo or start your...
Whether you're a new mom, a sports mom, or tackling the teen years, we have the advice to help make the toughest job out there a little easier. Join our Mom Squad.
Right now, a North Idaho woman is still missing after she disappeared on Sunday at a boat launch near Cataldo. Crews called off the official search for the 62-year-old, leaving the family to search for her on their own. They spoke exclusively to KREM 2's Shannon Mowdy.
I feel like we're so alone in this. So many people don't even know she's still missing.
62-year-old Linda Kent has been missing from a family outing at Cataldo boat launch since Sunday. Wednesday, her family was out looking once again without the aid of law enforcement.
And it's just been an uphill battle of fighting with everyone, just trying to get some kind of help.
The Kootenai County Sheriff's Office called off its official search, telling our partners at the Coeur d'Alene Press its resources had been exhausted.
They didn't have any real hits. There was no real scents picked up. There was no actual hits.
Our calls and emails to the Sheriff's Office weren't answered Wednesday. The family's continuing a private search, coming from as far away as Southern Oregon to rally as a family.
Linda's daddy. I'm 92 and I'm still upright. And I'm doing the best I know how to help find my daughter.
They're convinced Linda isn't anywhere near the park anymore, but maybe miles away without medication for diabetes and dementia.
It's just because she's elderly doesn't make her any less valuable to us.
Linda's family fears she may have bypassed the bathroom and walked to I-90, where she may have been picked up by a passing car. They believe she may be trying to get home to Montana, which is why they're now pushing for a multi-state search.
I've called Washington, Montana, but Idaho, we've been shut down 100% with Idaho.
They're turning to social media and their network of family past state lines to keep the search and hope alive. Shannon Mowdy.
We are asking the public for help.
KREM 2 News.
We just need to get her picture out there.
New from overnight, Spokane police arrested a man suspected of killing a woman in a hit and run in downtown Spokane last week. Police took 42-year-old Gary Burns into custody yesterday. Officers found the victim, 78-year-old Janet Mann, laying face down in the road at Brown and Main. She was taken to a hospital but died from her injuries. The man police arrested, Burns, is now being held at the Spokane County Jail. And passengers on board the Boeing plane that lost a door plug while in mid-flight in January sat down with our Seattle station. They say they thought they were going to die and will never trust Boeing again.
just this huge bang happened and like a white cloud went through the plane. It kind of looked like fire extinguisher, like powder almost. And I was immediately like, what is going on?
I don't think anyone should ever be put in that same experience that I was on that plane. For Boeing to come out and say that won't happen again, that's great. But I think I will truly believe it when it does not happen again.
This plane specifically, the NTSB found Boeing delivered the aircraft with 4 missing bolts from the door plug. Since then, several whistleblowers have come forward with manufacturing and safety concerns, including allegations that Boeing is installing faulty parts on planes. Well, we've got a big deadline coming up tonight before the presidential debate. Look at what the candidates still need to do before sharing the stage next week.
Oh, here comes the bread guy.
Ugh, don't you ever get sick of bread?
How dare you?
Come on. If you save nearly $750 like this, imagine what we could splurge on.
Oh, like sourdough.
No, the good stuff, like blueberries.
And strawberries?
Exactly.
Raspberries, blackberries, cranberries,
Okay,
elderberries.
we don't need to name all the berries.
Goji berries, Halle berry. I'm just kidding.
Mm-hmm.
But I love her.
Switch to Progressive and you could save hundreds to spend on whatever you dream up.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, please listen closely. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. It's a rate lock for your life insurance that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. Many policies you see don't have one, but you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. This plan was designed for people on a fixed income with coverage options that start at $9.95 a month. That's less than 35 cents a day. Your rate is locked in for life. Coverage can never be canceled, and your acceptance is guaranteed. You cannot be turned down because of your health. See for yourself. Call for an information kit and gift. Both are free with no obligation.
Call 1-800-618-4446 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-618-4446. 1-800-618-4446. Call now.
Cuando sujetas bien tu vehículo de aventuras, o atas bien tu sofá el día de la mudanza, o escuchas esa voz que te dice, tengo que cubrir todo esto con una red, haces tu parte para que todos en Washington lleguemos seguros a casa. Así que mantén las herramientas necesarias a la mano, asegura bien tu carga y pídeles a otros que hagan lo mismo. Cargas bien sujetadas, caminos más seguros. Aprende más en sujetatucarga.wa.org.
The day's biggest stories in the news.
Qualification deadline for next week's CNN presidential debate is today. Candidates have through the day to meet requirements set for the first in-person debate of 2024. To be on stage, they must each already have at least 15% support in 4 separate national polls, as well as appear on enough state ballots to get 270 electoral votes, which of course is what you need to win the presidency. One candidate falling short of all of that is RFK Jr., who's running as an independent. At this point, we are only expecting President Biden and former President Trump to be on stage next Thursday for this 90-minute debate. And this weekend, Democrats from across Idaho will meet in Moscow for the state's Democratic Party convention. The 2-day event starts this Saturday on the University of Idaho's Moscow campus. It's free and allows several different committee meetings and networking events. You can look at the full schedule or register at the website there on your screen. We also have more information on krem.com. In just a few days, the electronic dance music festival Beyond Wonderland will be back at the Gorge Amphitheater. Now, last year at this festival, if you remember, a man shot and killed 2 Seattle nurses and hurt many others. Those 2 nurses who died were Jocelyn Ruiz and Brandy Escamilla. The shooting traumatized attendees, and they had to cancel the rest of the festival.
It was definitely like a deep, kind of mourning.
2 beautiful girls that were so young, so in love in their relationship, and just they're taken too soon.
Organizers say since they've put in new security measures, wait times to get into the campgrounds this year could be up to 3 hours. Since the shooting, Live Nation, the company who held the festival, and the security companies who worked the festival were sued for wrongful death. The accused gunman is James Kelly. He was an active member of the military at the time, and he allegedly had taken mushrooms before the attack. His next court hearing is in August. And we're still tracking the Pioneer Fire north of Lake Chelan this morning. Fire officials say since it's burning in such a remote area, it may burn all the way until Halloween. As of now, it is still 0% contained. Now, these here are a few photos that we have of the fire that we just got into our newsroom. It's burned almost 4,000 acres. Right now, crews are working to recommission old roads near the fire so they can get more firefighters out there to fight it. Because of tough terrain, firefighters have had to attack the fire by boat and air. Crews are dropping more than 100,000 gallons of water on the fire every day. At this point, though, we still don't know what sparked this fire. And with fire danger high throughout Washington, starting this Friday, campfires are banned on state lands throughout most of southeast Washington. That's areas like Cle Elum, Yakima, and the Tri-Cities. For people getting out this weekend, DNR says you can still use propane or butane camp stoves and backpacking stoves. Well, Mount St. Helens has been a little bit more active than you might expect this year. Since February 1st, there have been 350 earthquakes on the mountain. Each of them have been less than 1.0, so not even big enough to feel. But researchers say that it does mean the volcano is recharging. They say this typically happens when new magma starts coming in. Now, this can happen for many years without an eruption, and scientists say there is no reason to be concerned right now.
Well, weather conditions are phenomenal for this first day of summer, and the heat continues to build into this weekend. We'll show you just how warm it will be across the inland Northwest for this first summer weekend. Your full forecast is next.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, please listen closely. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. It's a rate lock for your life insurance that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. Many policies you see don't have one, but you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. This plan was designed for people on a fixed income with coverage options that start at $9.95 a month. That's less than 35 cents a day. Your rate is locked in for life. Coverage can never be canceled, and your acceptance is guaranteed. You cannot be turned down because of your health. See for yourself. Call for an information kit and gift. Both are free with no obligation.
Call 1-800-618-4446 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-618-4446. 1-800-618-4446. Call now.
Oh, here comes the bread guy.
Ugh, don't you ever get sick of bread?
How dare you?
Come on. If you save nearly $750 like this, imagine what we could splurge on.
Oh, like sourdough.
No, the good stuff, like blueberries.
And strawberries?
Exactly.
Raspberries, blackberries, cranberries,
Okay,
elderberries.
we don't need to name all the berries.
Goji berries, halle berry. I'm just kidding.
Mm-hmm.
But I love her.
Switch to Progressive and you could save hundreds to spend on whatever you dream up.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this is very exciting. Today is the summer solstice, the first day of astronomical summer. And today's summer solstice is going to be the earliest in 228 years. The U.S. Naval Observatory says the last time the solstice happened on June 20th was in 1796. The summer solstice gives the northern hemisphere the most daylight hours of the entire year, and the exact time of the solstice is the moment the sun reaches its highest point in the sky. That happens today at about 1:50, so an hour and a half or so. And with the summer heat, of course, comes millions of people across the U.S. under excessive heat warnings or advisories. Several states are activating emergency operations and open cooling centers because of this heat dome. The National Weather Service says today more than 80 million people are under heat alerts. For people with outdoor jobs, there is little choice but to brave it.
Tomorrow's hydration starts tonight. So when you're finished your day, make sure you're going home and you're staying properly hydrated.
The National Weather Service says 14 states have high heat alerts in effect already, and we're just expecting this heat wave to get worse. And while our weather here won't be quite as extreme as the rest of the country this week, high temperatures can still be dangerous if you're not careful. So we have a few hacks to stay cool this week. First, close your blinds and curtains during the day. That'll help keep your home cooler. The U.S. Department of Energy says 76% of the sunlight that hits a standard double pane window turns right into heat. And in cases of extreme heat, you can also put aluminum foil covered cardboard over your windows to reflect some of those sun rays. Another tip, if you're having trouble cooling down, you could use an ice pack on your pulse points. That's where your blood vessels are closer to the skin's surface. Columbia's Climate School recommends doing this on your wrists, your neck, elbows, feet, thighs, temples, and forehead. If you don't have an ice pack, you can also pop a wet washcloth in the freezer. It'll do about the same thing.
We're getting there, aren't we? It is the first day of summer, and of course the high heat still is yet to peak. About a month and a half away. It's always late July and early August is when we get to our statistically speaking, hottest days of the year. But today, absolutely comfortable summer heat, a wonderful day with nothing but sunshine and even a little high-level cloud cover just to indicate that our weather pattern is stable. And that's why we don't see any pop-up showers or storms today, even with the heat from the sunshine. We're back in the 80s today. There will be high fire danger on Sunday with the winds. But the solstice begins in, well, an hour and a half here, 1:50 p.m. Pacific time. That's the moment where the northern hemisphere is fully tilted towards the sun by 23.5 degrees. It's the exact moment where we get that longest daytime of the year. And for us, that's 16 hours flat of daylight, and we get every single second of sunshine for today being the longest daytime of the year. Very quiet weather pattern. Again, it doesn't look like there's anything happening other than a little bit of high cloud cover for the inland northwest. So a beautiful summer day. This is the comfortable summer weather where it's not so excessively hot that we're just sweating the moment we get outside, though you definitely will still need the sunscreen out there. High temperatures will peak in the low 80s for eastern Washington this afternoon, and we still use the regional wide view because we don't need to track any rain or storms all the way through not just this weekend, but even early next week. This ridge in the jet stream helping to just give us that warm summer weather when we're directly underneath it, which is known as the axis of that ridge. That's where our temperatures will peak, probably close to 90 degrees on Saturday. When we get towards the tail end of that ridge, where we're underneath the jet stream portion of it, that's when we get a windy day. And this is going to be a very common weather pattern that we see through the summertime. The final day of a heat wave tends to be the windiest and the one with the highest fire danger. It's not the hottest day with the highest fire danger. It's the windiest day. And in this case, it's going to be Sunday, as wind gusts are expected at about 30 miles per hour on a dry and warm day. But here's your hottest day of the forecast at near 90 degrees. I just go 89, but that still would be our hottest day of the year so far. Remember, we still have 3 months of summer still ahead of us, so plenty of days to get in the 90s, at least at some point. But for now, I go lots of 80s in our forecast. Just a reminder, Saturday is the hottest day of the forecast, and Sunday is the windiest.
Well, if you're looking for plans for tonight, still up ahead, everything you need to know about Spokane's Got Talent.
And we will sing. Stop.
Queen Diva.
You ready?
Oh, let's go. Let's go. Go.
Custom Ink helps us celebrate and drive our students' achievements with custom gear. They love Custom Ink's different styles and designs. We love how Custom Ink makes the process simple with their easy-to-use design lab, expert artists ready to help, and unbeatable customer service. Custom Ink allows our kids to show everyone their accomplishments and the pride they have in our school. When we place an order, I know they got our back, so we can focus on the kids.
Custom Ink has hundreds of products to help you feel connected. Upload your logo or start your design today at customink.com.
If you have generalized myasthenia gravis, picture what life could look like with Vyvgart Hytrulo, a subcutaneous injection that takes about 30 to 90 seconds. For one thing, could it mean more time for you? Vyvgart Hytrulo can improve daily abilities and reduce muscle weakness with a treatment plan that's personalized to you. Do not use Vyvgart Hytrulo if you have a serious allergy to any of its ingredients. It can cause serious allergic reactions like trouble breathing and decrease in blood pressure leading to fainting, and allergic reactions such as rashes, swelling under the skin, shortness of breath, and hives. The most common side effects are respiratory and urinary tract infections, headache, and injection site reactions. It may increase the risk of infusion-related reactions and infection. Tell your doctor if you have a history of infections or symptoms of an infection. Talk to your neurologist about Vyvgart Hytrulo for GMG and picture your life in motion.
If you have generalized myasthenia gravis, picture what life could look like with Vyvgart Hytrulo, a subcutaneous injection that takes about 30 to 90 seconds. For one thing, could it mean more time for you? Vyvgart Hytrulo can improve daily abilities and reduce muscle weakness with a treatment plan that's personalized to you. Do not use Vyvgart Hytrulo if you have a serious allergy to any of its ingredients. It can cause serious allergic reactions like trouble breathing and decrease in blood pressure leading to fainting and allergic reactions such as rashes, swelling under the skin, shortness of breath, and hives. The most common side effects are respiratory and urinary tract infections, headache, and injection site reactions. It may increase the risk of infusion-related reactions and infection. Tell your doctor if you have a history of infections or symptoms of an infection. Talk to your neurologist about Vyvgart Hytrulo for GMG and picture your life in motion.
Welcome to our streaming channel. Here you can catch up on all the latest news, weather, and sports you need. Countless hours of fresh, original content you can watch at any speed. Everything you love about local, plus so much more. Get the facts this election season with Verify. Welcome to our streaming channel. Here you can catch up on all the latest news, weather, and sports you need. Everything you love about local, plus so much more.
Spokane's got a very vibrant talent community, and Expo, we want to highlight all the diversity that we have in this wonderful city of ours, county.
This is really cool. So today at 6 o'clock this evening, the long-awaited Spokane's Got Talent show starts at the Spokane Pavilion. Right, we've got some video of auditions from last month. Hopefully we can get it pulled up here. But there will be a variety of talent from more than 20 different performers. Another reason to get excited, singer-songwriter Philip Phillips, who my mom loves, by the way. He is known for his song Gone, Gone, Gone. He will be here as a special guest performer. And best of all, the talent show is free for everyone to attend. Tomorrow, Expo 74 is also partnering with the Lands Council for the Legislative Summit. Spokane Mayor Lisa Brown and Washington Governor Jay Inslee will be keynote speakers there. The event is free and runs from 7:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. That's going to be at the Spokane Convention Center Ballroom. The summit will focus on climate policy and Indigenous rights. For one of the main events, the Colville Confederated Tribe Salmon Chief will do a symbolic salmon ceremony at noon. Then after the event, there will be a traditional canoe race on the Spokane River at 3:30 p.m. at the Dong Kardong Bridge. You can register for the event at the link here on your screen. And if you're still looking for fun plans, tonight is Crumb 2 night at the Spokane Indians game. So Mark, Whitney, Jeremy, and Travis will all be at Avista Stadium ahead of tonight's Indians game at 6:35. So come on out, support the Indians, and meet all of our cool people that we've got.
I have it on good word that the weather is going to be awesome for tonight as well. And if Jeremy's there, he's got to really come through with the weather. And
I'm stoked for all this sunshine. Look at that. It's all just sunshine.
It's just sunshine, sunshine, sunshine. No rain, no storms in the forecast as we enter the summer season. Just a little bit of summer heat for this weekend. I go 89. We got a chance to hit 90 degrees though for the first time this year. But can we mention that you were surprised that today was the summer solstice because it is usually on the 21st.
Okay, so it's normally on the 21st, and I try to make a point every year to wake up with the sun and go to bed with the sun on the solstice. And
because
so
you get
I've
16 hours of
yeah,
it.
so tomorrow I was planning on waking up at 4:30, and then I came in and read the script that said it's today, and I was like, I missed it.
So don't worry, you're only missing 2.
If you have generalized myasthenia gravis, picture what life could look like with Vyvgart Hytrulo, a subcutaneous injection that takes about 30 to 90 seconds. For one thing, could it mean more time for you? Vyvgart Hytrulo can improve daily abilities and reduce muscle weakness with a treatment plan that's personalized to you. Do not use Vyvgart Hytrulo if you have a serious allergy to any of its ingredients. It can cause serious allergic reactions like trouble breathing and decrease in blood pressure, leading to fainting and allergic reactions such as rashes, swelling under the skin, shortness of breath, and hives. The most common side effects are respiratory and urinary tract infections, headache, and injection site reactions. It may increase the risk of infusion-related reactions and infection. In motion. 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 In motion.
On our station's streaming app.
Decrease in blood pressure leading to fainting and allergic reactions such as rashes, swelling under the skin, shortness of breath.
Here you can catch up on all the latest.
Most common side effects are respiratory and urinary tract infections, headache.
Original content you can watch.
It may increase the risk of infusion-related reactions and infection.
Or around the world. Stay in the
history of infections or symptoms of an infection. Talk to your neurologist.
Local, plus so much more.
GMG, and picture your life in motion.
Welcome to our streaming channel. Here you can catch up on all the latest news, weather, and sports you need. Everything you love about local, plus so much more. Welcome to our streaming channel. Here you can catch up on all the latest news, weather, and sports you need. Countless hours of fresh, original content you can watch at any speed. Everything you love about local, plus so much more.
Got a new house.
I think I found a place that I call home.
Spotting disinformation during an election year can be tough. Verify is your resource for the facts you need to understand what's true and what's false. From spotting artificial intelligence and manipulated social media to fact-checking claims from the candidates, get the facts with Verify.
Live your best life with Prescription for Life.
They can get across it. It's sort of common sense, and it probably sounds condescending, but it's really a safety precaution.
And with even more rain forecasted leading into the weekend, the rivers are just going to keep rising. Well, back to Louisiana now, where new legislation requires all public classrooms to display the Ten Commandments. The bill was signed into law Wednesday by the state's governor. Louisiana is the first state to require that the Ten Commandments be displayed in every public school classroom, from kindergarten to state-funded universities. The displays, which will be paid for through donations, must be in place in classrooms by the start of 2025. Now, the law has already drawn outrage, with civil liberties organizations claiming it blurs the lines between church and state. Now the law is being challenged by the ACLU and some other groups. Devin Bartolotta breaks down the law and the oncoming suit.
In your breakdown, Governor Jeff Landry said he couldn't wait to be sued over a new law requiring the Ten Commandments in Louisiana classrooms, and he did not have to wait long. Just hours after it was signed, the ACLU of Louisiana, Americans United for Separation of Church and State, and the Freedom from Religion Foundation announced they would be filing a lawsuit to stop it. The organizations say the law violates the First Amendment's promise to separation of church and state, and it, quote, will result in unconstitutional religious coercion of students who are legally required to attend school and thus a captive audience for school-sponsored religious messages. House Bill 71 makes Louisiana the only state in the nation to require all public schools, including colleges, to display the Ten Commandments in every classroom. The poster must be at least 11 by 14 inches. The commandments must be the central focus and printed in a large, easily readable font. Attorney General Liz Murrill said that the commandments are an important part of the country's foundations, and she, quote, looks forward to defending the law. The lawsuit hasn't officially been filed yet, but Landry knew there would be challenges that would ring up the bill for taxpayers. Tuesday night at a GOP fundraiser in Tennessee, he said, quote, I'm going home to sign a bill that places the Ten Commandments in public classrooms, and I can't wait to be sued.
1 week from today, President Biden and former President Donald Trump will be on the main stage for the first debate of the presidential election cycle. They'll face off at CNN's Atlanta studios on June 27th. And now we're getting a look at the rules that CNN is requiring both of them to follow. The debate will last 90 minutes with 2 commercial breaks, and microphones will be muted except for when it's that candidate's turn to talk. No written notes will be allowed. Candidates will only be given pen and paper, and candidates will only be allowed to talk to their campaigning staff during those breaks. The Federal Trade Commission is bringing a complaint against TikTok to the Justice Department for alleged violations of children's privacy. This follows an investigation into whether TikTok violated a 2019 settlement with the FTC that said it illegally collected children's personal information. The company also faces a legal challenge to a law that could ban the app from the U.S. if it doesn't find a new owner. The FTC says addressing these issues will potentially help ban the app when the appeals court hears arguments in the trial in September. A long-lasting heat wave is intensifying across the U.S., with high temperatures persisting in the Midwest, Northeast, and Mid-Atlantic. The hot weather can mean extreme temperatures inside of your car. Brandon Lewis from our National Verify team explains if tinting your windows is worth the money.
Verify here with your fast fact. Nobody enjoys that feeling when you open your car door on a hot summer day and it feels like an oven. Verify viewer M emailed us to ask if tinting her windows can help keep the inside cooler. So M, let's verify using these sources. The inside of a car gets hot because the sun's UV rays penetrate the glass. The energy from the rays is then absorbed by the surfaces and released as heat that gets trapped inside. All of our sources say tinting your windows can help block some of the sun's rays and keep the interior of your car a few degrees cooler. The exact amount depends on the darkness and quality of the tint and which windows are tinted. So, yes, tinted windows reduce heat inside of a car. Tinting rules vary by state, so make sure to check the laws where you live. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
2 climate protesters were arrested Wednesday after they sprayed orange powder paint on the ancient Stonehenge monument in England. It happened a day before huge crowds are expected to gather at this ancient monument to mark the summer solstice. A video posted on X by Just Stop Oil shows 2 of the group's activists spraying the iconic English landmark with that orange paint using fire extinguishers. Police said in a statement the protesters were arrested on suspicion of damaging the ancient monument, and the paint has been removed ahead of today's celebration.
So, having these mental blocks in the gym recently.
Simone Biles is out of the competition tonight.
Netflix has just released a trailer for the new docuseries Simone Biles Rising. The 4-part series takes a look back at her decision to withdraw from the 2020 Summer Games. Biles talks about working through her mental health struggles and then getting back in the gym and preparing for this year's upcoming Summer Games. The docuseries will be released on Netflix on July 17th. Well, you're all caught up. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joe Ellison. Have a great day.
Soaking up the sun. It's a favorite pastime during the summer, but let's not forget about the dangers of the sun on our body and not just on our skin. The sun can be damaging to our eyes.
You can get a photokeratitis, which is like a sunburn to the eye.
We're also debunking some common sunscreen myths.
Unless you're living in like a bunker with no UV exposure at all, no windows, you need sunscreen.
And later in the show, nothing like kicking back a few cocktails in the summer heat, but beware of margarita burn. We'll show you the ingredient that does not mix well with the sun. It's all about the dangers of the sun straight ahead on this week's edition of Prescription for Life. Hello, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Monica Robbins. The sun certainly has its advantages, from vitamin D to boosting your mood, even helping with your sleep. But its powerful rays can be damaging, especially for our eyes. We'll get to that in just a moment with our expert. But first, you've probably seen something like this in the weather segment of your local TV news, the UV or ultraviolet index. But what does it mean for you and protecting yourself? Overexposure during days with high UV values can be harmful, both in the short term and over long term. Abby Lorico with Verify breaks it all down.
Warm days and glowing evenings. The summer sun brings a lot of good to the season, but it also means stronger ultraviolet or UV rays. We turn to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, their meteorologist, Laura Siasto, and the EPA to verify what you need to know about using the UV index for sun safety. NOAA is a branch of the National Weather Service. Just like precipitation and temperature, it tracks UV radiation in locations across the U.S.
Typically, that forecast is made for solar noon of the next day, when we are expecting the UV radiation likely to be strongest.
The strength of those rays is measured using the UV index. A forecast on the low end of the scale, 0 through 5, means fewer damaging rays with less risk for most people, according to NOAA, which explains scores of level 6 or greater indicate significant damage from the sun can happen quickly. People who are more likely to get sunburn or are on medications or use creams that make them more sun sensitive might experience worse effects at lower UV levels. The EPA has a free mobile app where you can enter your zip code and find the hour-by-hour UV forecast where you live.
You're getting into what we call the extreme, the purple values of our UV index. That's when we're recommending that you just stay indoors in the shade.
The EPA, warning of the known risk of health consequences of sun damage, encourages people to limit their time outside between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m., the hours of the day with the strongest UV potential. The UV levels on any given day are based on a few factors, including cloud cover, ozone layer thickness, reflection from surfaces like sand and snow, elevation, and pollution. Places closer to the equator and where the Earth's summertime tilt shorten the distance to the sun log higher UV levels.
The UV radiation is kind of looking for the path of least resistance.
You don't have to burn to experience sun damage. It's why dermatologists recommend lathering up with sunscreen even on cloudy days and wearing sunglasses to prevent UV damage to your eyes. But remember, the UV index is ultimately another tool to help you stay informed and enjoy your summer days outside. With your Verify, I'm Abby Larico.
Now, our expert clears up any confusion about the sun and our eyes and how to protect them during the summer months. Joining me now is Dr. Nicole Bayich, who is an ophthalmologist with Cleveland Clinic. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, we are talking about protecting your eyes in the summer, and of course, that comes with sunglasses, cheap sunglasses. Can we do it?
So it depends. You know, surprisingly, I have tested them myself and found that some of them actually do have some UV protection. However, you know, it's really hard to say, and for the average person, you're not going to know. So I do tend to think that it's better to go for, you know, trusted brands, and you want to look for 100% UV protection or UV 400. So those are the darker filters. You might see some lighter colored lenses. Typically, those have, you know, less filter protection, but you know, look for the 100% UV or UV 400 logos as your best bet.
So UVA, UVB, what's the difference?
So they're just different types of UV rays, but you know, the biggest key is to get the darkest filter, so that 100% UV protection is best.
Okay, so you know, does polarized matter?
Yeah, so polarization is actually really important, but it can, more than, you know, filtering out the UV rays, it actually just helps eliminate some of the light scatter that you see. So what that translates to is less glare. So, you know, when you're working outdoors or if you're driving, you know, it can be really tough when the bright sun is out in summer, and it can be unsafe when you're, you know, squinting, but the polarization actually filters out some of those scattered light rays so that it makes it safer for you to look and see what you need to see.
Everybody wants the glasses, like the aviators are really cool right now, but what about the glasses that, you know, they still have room for the sun to get down on top? Does that matter?
Sure. So right now it's actually trendy to have the smaller 90s style sunglasses, but you're right, where there's a lot of exposure where, you know, sunlight and other things can be getting in. So, you know, if you're, you know, participating in sports or other activities like a motorcycle, you know, that's actually an area where, you know, stuff can fly into your eyes. So bigger is actually better in terms of eye protection.
Who's most at risk for, you know, sun damage to your eyes?
So, you know, people who are, you know, outdoors a lot, or if you have any eye conditions that could predispose you to it, like, you know, things with your cornea or retina, in terms of, you know, what can actually go wrong. So you can get a photokeratitis, which is like a sunburn to the eye. You can also get, you know, damage to your cornea and lens, so you can see cataract progression. And there's also, as we know from the eclipse, solar retinopathy. So lots of things that you want to protect from. One key thing too is, you know, we're so in tune with the idea of needing to use sunscreen to protect our skin from skin cancer, but you should know that we can also get eye cancer, and so it's actually really important to use, you know, sunglasses with good UV protection so you can avoid or cut your risk of eye cancers.
Does your eye color matter?
Great question. So in terms of light sensitivity, we do see that people with lighter eyes tend to be more light sensitive.
So when you go to buy sunglasses, you know, everybody looks at fashion first. Bottom line, the three things you should really look for when you're going to buy sunglasses, what should they be?
So number one, you want to make sure that they have the right filter. So UV 400 or 100% UV protection. If you are needing it to cut down on glare, you know, look for polarization. I do think that the bigger lenses can be better in terms of offering, you know, more physical protection. Some people really like the wraparounds too, to help avoid, you know, risk of things from getting in from the sides. And, you know, make sure that it's comfortable, because if it's not comfortable and you don't like it, you're not going to wear it.
What about the glasses that are yellow? Do those make a difference? They're supposed to cut down glare while you're driving, or maybe the dusk and dawn glasses?
Great question. You know, I have some patients who aren't quite ready for cataract surgery yet, but want a little something extra to cut down on glare. I'm fine with it, but those typically don't have UV protection, and you'll have to check the label because anything, you know, can have its own specific filter depending on the brand. So. It's fine for cutting down on glare, but if you're going to use it outdoors, and you know, just be aware of whether or not it has sun protection, because most don't.
Darker lenses, better lenses?
It can be. So, you know, we'll see typically with the better UV protection sunglasses, they will be darker. But, you know, you can have dark lenses that don't offer any UV protection. So it's really important that you do your research on the brand that you're buying.
And even you can find the polarized and the UV protection at the gas station if you do your homework and look.
Yeah. The polarized lenses, those are going to be those mirrored type of lenses. So, you know, that's the easy way to tell them apart.
Awesome. All right. Eye diseases, anything we need to watch for in the summer?
Yeah, so, you know, again, you know, make sure you're not staring directly into the sun, and then using the UV protection, that's really important. You know, one of the things I didn't touch on, the pterygium, so it's surfer's eye, but just that sun exposure can cause a growth, you know, to come over the eye too, so that's another thing to watch out for.
Can you have that removed? Like, what do you do for it?
Yeah, we remove it with surgery, or sometimes we just watch them.
Does the sun cause cataracts to develop faster?
Yes, great question. But also it just happens with age. So I tell everyone that we're all going to need cataract surgery if you live long enough. And I hope I get cataract surgery too. But there are things that can make it, you know, speed up a little faster. One being sun, smoking, hyperbaric oxygen, and a lot of other conditions too.
All right. Dr. Bayach, as always, great advice. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Isn't it absolutely bonkers that you can walk into a store, hand someone a piece of plastic, and they will willingly hand over Reese's cups? Forget flying cars. This is it. We're at the pinnacle.
If you have generalized myasthenia gravis, picture what life could look like with Vyvgart Hytrulo, a subcutaneous injection that takes about 30 to 90 seconds. For one thing, could it mean more time for you? Vyvgart Hytrulo can improve daily abilities and reduce muscle weakness with a treatment plan that's personalized to you. Do not use Vyvgart Hytrulo if you have a serious allergy to any of its ingredients. It can cause serious allergic reactions like trouble breathing and decrease in blood pressure, leading to fainting and allergic reactions such as rashes, swelling under the skin, shortness of breath, and hives. The most common side effects are respiratory and urinary tract infections, headache, and injection site reactions. It may increase the risk of infusion-related reactions and infection. Tell your doctor if you have a history of infections or symptoms of an infection. Talk to your neurologist about Vyvgart Hytrulo for GMG and picture your life in motion.
We just shipped our millionth monthly coffee subscription box. We're sending custom thank you gifts to everyone on our team who helped us get there. I had to call Eric at Custom Ink. Custom Ink has been with us from the beginning, and he makes sure that we get everything we need and even reminds us of our own company milestones. This milestone, though, I get to tell him about. He is every bit as excited as we are and knows great quality products we can customize and send for the gifts. Celebrate all your milestones with custom gear. Get started today at customink.com.
Part-time job, full-time hustle, all-time Shiro to all of us. You nurture, we listen. You teach, we thrive. You lift our spirits, but we've got to lay down the truth. It's time for you, our Shiro, to stretch for the stars. A free online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to start boosting your retirement savings today. Start saving more for retirement so you can feel prepared and live your life to the fullest. Visit aceyourretirement.org.
Locked On NBA Podcast.
The Celtics are significantly better. They'll be well rested. If the Celtics don't win in a sweep, I think that we might start to talk. Like, all right, are we sure the Celtics are the juggernaut we thought?
Listen or watch today wherever you get podcasts.
Welcome back. We're talking about the dangers of the sun, especially for our eyes. Now, earlier, Dr. Baich talked about cataracts. And according to the World Health Organization, there are 15 million people in the world who are blind from cataracts. And for up to 10% of these individuals, the cause of many of their conditions may have been exposure to ultraviolet radiation.
Yeah, I've got a model here to show. Here's an eyeball model. And I'm going to take off the top here. The front of the eye is a cornea. So behind that is a colored part of the eye, the iris. And behind that is a cataract. This is a lens. And as we age, starting about age 40, it starts to get more and more cloudy, more for some people than others. And when this thing gets cloudy, not much you can do. Here's the lens. You can't repair this. There's no medicine, no treatment. You have to take it out and put in a new one. Now, there's several different types of cataract replacements you can put in. One will allow you to see it closer a lot better. One will allow you to see farther a lot better. Some people will get one or the other, or one for close-up, one for distance. That can be tricky for some people. If you've got astigmatism, where the cornea is a little bit malshapen, that's what I had, you have to have a different lens called toric. That fixes that. And the newer lenses right now, they can actually be adjusted up or down for distance and far. They tell me sometimes that works well, sometimes doesn't. So the main thing is talk to your doctor. If you need cataracts, talk to your doctor. He or she will help you pick out the best ones for you.
A new cataract procedure introduced at one hospital in Jacksonville, Florida, allows for your lenses to be changed with UV light, making your eyesight more precise. Renata Di Gregorio shows us how it works.
They're pretty nice glasses, actually.
Forget rose-colored glasses. George Wilson has been viewing life through ultraviolet light protecting sunglasses for about 6 weeks, he says.
It's, a little inconvenient for a couple months, maybe a little less than a couple months, but it's well worth it in the long run.
Perfect, just like that.
Wilson is one of the first patients at Florida Eye Specialists doing a procedure new to the First Coast. Cataract surgery removes your eye's cloudy lens and replaces it. What's new? Wilson got his replaced with a lens that can be changed with UV light to make his vision more precise.
In a very non-invasive, easy way, we can change someone's life.
Jacksonville ophthalmologist Dr. Amit Chokshi says the procedure only takes 2 to 3 minutes in about 3 separate sessions. They had their first patient do it last month.
And then their prescription stays with them the rest of their life.
He says their 13 surgeons already do up to 15 cataract cases a week. About half of all Americans have cataracts by age 75, according to the American Academy of Ophthalmology.
I'm seeing perfectly now.
And once the sunglasses come off, he'll see a brighter world, too.
Doctors say no matter what you're doing, you should also wear sunscreen on your face to prevent burns on your eyelids or the sensitive skin around your eyes. And speaking of sunscreen, there are so many different kinds on the market. Which one should you choose? How often should you apply it? And who should be applying it? Jeremy Baker debunks some of those common myths.
When you're applying for the first time, it is important probably to choose a cream because you can actually control how much of that goes onto your skin.
Dr. Jimenez Cervantes is a skin clinic physician within University Health. She says SPF 30 sunscreen is the target.
30 is the minimum that has been shown to be efficient in protecting our skin against the sun.
Going higher than 30 will protect you more, but more important is reapplying.
Especially when you're outdoors, you're swimming, you're going to be sweating. Important thing is to kind of rinse off and reapply every 2 hours.
Here are some popular sunscreen myths. People don't think they need sunscreen because they are not outside.
Unless you're living in like a bunker with no UV exposure at all, no windows, you need sunscreen. Even the small little moments that you're going from your car to the grocery store, from your car to work, those accumulate over a lifetime.
You don't have to wear sunscreen on cloudy days or in the winter.
Even on a cloudy, rainy day, winter, every day the UV rays penetrate through those clouds.
And finally, people with darker skin do not need sunscreen.
I think that is a common misconception that we don't need to protect our skin as much, but tanning, you get a little bit darker when you're out in the sun. That is burning. So that is affecting your skin in the long term.
Knocking back a few cocktails this summer may be fun and relaxing, but there is nothing fun about a wicked rash. I took a look at why margaritas and some other summer cocktails just don't mix with the sun. Nothing better than a summer cocktail with a wedge of lime, but beware, that tasty citrus juice does not mix well with the sun, especially if you get it on your skin.
About 24 to 48 hours later, you'll notice some redness. It might be painful, might blister in those exact areas where it was exposed. And then those blisters and the redness will fade, but you might have some dark skin there that could be there for months or even years later.
It's called phytophotodermatitis and can happen to anyone. It's a skin reaction to certain types of plants, including citrus, like limes, lemons, and oranges. But even celery and parsley can cause it.
Getting the juice of the lime on you, the rind of the lime has much more of these phytocoumarins. Those are the chemicals that potentiate the sun's effects on our skin. And they have about 10 times as much of the chemical as the pulp or the juice in there. But the juice does have it also. So either contact with either one could produce that.
It can happen in about 5 minutes of sun exposure. And because it doesn't happen immediately, most people think they've been exposed to poison ivy. How do you treat it?
I want to try not to pop the blister because that would increase your risk of infection. You could put some Vaseline on it. If you were to catch it early enough and it's bad enough, actually high doses of vitamin D might be helpful.
So best advice, keep your hands covered while you're cutting citrus in the sun. The reaction usually lasts about 2 to 3 days before it goes away on its own. Now remember to enjoy summer, but please do it safely. That'll do it for this week's edition of Prescription for Life. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back here with another dose next week.
Question. What would you get with almost $750?
Easy. I'd buy a smartwatch like that guy.
Makes sense. Use that GPS for your poor sense of direction.
Excuse me? My grandfather was a homing pigeon. My internal compass is genetic.
Must have skipped a generation.
I'm a walking GPS.
Okay. Which way is north? Okay, that's up, not north.
I should get the watch.
Switch to Progressive and you could save hundreds to spend on whatever you dream up.
Save big during Conlin's summer savings event. Save up to 70% off select items throughout the store, including one-of-a-kind, clearance, closeout items, and more. Plus, ask about available 60-month special financing. Don't miss Conlin's summer savings event.
If you have generalized myasthenia gravis, picture what life could look like with Vyvgart Hytrulo, a subcutaneous injection that takes about 30 to 90 seconds. For one thing, could it mean more time for you? Vyvgart Hytrulo can improve daily abilities and reduce muscle weakness with a treatment plan that's personalized to you. Do not use Vyvgart Hytrulo if you have a serious allergy to any of its ingredients. It can cause serious allergic reactions like trouble breathing and decrease in blood pressure, leading to fainting and allergic reactions such as rashes, swelling under the skin, shortness of breath, and hives. The most common side effects are respiratory and urinary tract infections, headache, and injection site reactions. It may increase the risk of infusion-related reactions and infection. Tell your doctor if you have a history of infections or symptoms of an infection. Talk to your neurologist about Vyvgart Hytrulo for GMG and picture your life in motion.
We all need a prescription for life.
As a pediatrician, I always want to make sure that my parents know.
From life-saving techniques,
really learn how to do CPR,
to the latest in medical research.
About 50% of women at some point in their lifetime will experience hair loss.
And if you miss an episode, don't worry. Go to Shows tab at the top of your screen, and you can find all the episodes covering the topics that matter most to you and the ones you love. Live your best life with Prescription for Life.
Get the facts this election season with Verify.
Part-time job, full-time hustle, all-time hero to all of us. You nurture, we listen. You teach, we thrive. You lift our spirits, but we've got to lay down the truth. It's time for you, our Shiro, to stretch for the stars. A free online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to start boosting your retirement savings today. Start saving more for retirement so you can feel prepared and live your life to the fullest. Visit aceyourretirement.org.
Get the facts this election season with Verify. Your money, helping you save, spend, and invest your money wisely.
Find the hour-by-hour UV forecast where you live.
You're getting into what we call the purple values of our UV index. That's when we're recommending that you just stay indoors in the shade.
The EPA warning of the known risk of health
I feel like we're so alone in this. So many people don't even know she's still missing.
Right now on Up with Krem, a desperate search called off. In a Krem 2 exclusive, the family of a missing woman shares their plea to bring their mother home.
The first day of summer comes with summer heat for the region as temperatures rise into the 80s and 90s. Plus, we're tracking at least one day in the forecast that'll be on the windy side.
Passengers on board the Alaska Airlines flight where a door plug flew off a Boeing plane midair shared their terrifying moments on board.
I was thinking that we're going to die. I was thinking that the plane is going to crash.
Up with Krem begins now.
Good morning, everyone. It is 7 o'clock here on your Thursday, or as we like to say, Friday Eve around here. Meteorologist Thomas Patrick joining us here in the Weather Center. Thomas, today is the first, what is it? Is it meteorological or astronomical? I always forget the two. Summer, right?
Yeah, this one's
solstice.
Yeah, this one's astronomical.
Astronomical,
summer,
that's right.
Because it does have to do with the summer solstice. It's the moment that the Earth and the northern hemisphere is tilted towards the sun. Meteorological summer always starts on the first of the month because that just makes our record keeping a lot easier when it comes to the seasons. But we know that the first day of summer can always vary by a day or two. Actually, it's one of the earliest starts to the summer season in 228 years. It just happens to work out that way. It is the 20th after all. Today is our longest daytime of the year as we get 16 hours even of daylight today, and it looks like it's going to be completely filled with sunny skies to go along with it. Our temperature is already climbing into the upper 50s, and we'll be into the 80s this afternoon, the first of many days that are expected to be in the 80s locally.
New from overnight, a helicopter crashed near Davenport and Harrington last night. We just got new photos of the crash site from the Lincoln County Record Times. Davenport Fire says they had to call in help from several county agencies, including the Lincoln County Fire District 6. This morning, we called the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office. They tell us they are not releasing any information about the crash right now, but we will continue digging for more information. In the meantime, this is a developing story, and we'll continue to bring you updates throughout the morning as we get them. The qualification deadline for CNN's presidential debate next week is hours away. Candidates have through today to meet requirements set for the first in-person debate of 2024. To be on stage, they must each already have at least 15% support in 4 separate national polls, as well as appear on enough state ballots to get 270 electoral votes, which is the threshold necessary to win the presidency. One candidate falling short of that is RFK Jr., who's running as an independent. At this point, only President Biden and former President Donald Trump are expected to be on stage next Thursday for the 90-minute debate. And looking ahead this weekend, Democrats from across Idaho will meet in Moscow for the state's Democratic Party convention. The 2-day event starts this Saturday on the University of Idaho Moscow's campus. The free event includes several different committee meetings and networking events. For the full schedule or to register, you can go to the website there on your screen or to our website, krem.com. Right now, a North Idaho woman is still missing after she disappeared on Sunday at a boat launch near Cataldo. The official search for the 62-year-old has ended, leaving the family to search for her on their own. They spoke exclusively to Krem 2's Shannon Mowdy.
I feel like we're so alone in this. So many people don't even know she's still missing.
62-year-old Linda Kent has been missing from a family outing at Cataldo boat launch since Sunday. Wednesday, her family was out looking once again without the aid of law enforcement.
And it's just been an uphill battle of fighting with everyone, just trying to get some kind of help.
The Kootenai County Sheriff's Office called off its official search, telling our partners at the Coeur d'Alene Press its resources had been exhausted.
They didn't have any real hits. There was no real scents picked up. There was no actual hits.
Our calls and emails to the Sheriff's Office weren't answered Wednesday. The family's continuing a private search, coming from as far away as Southern Oregon to rally as a family.
Linda's daddy. I'm 92 and I'm still upright, and I'm doing the best I know how to help find my daughter.
They're convinced Linda isn't anywhere near the park anymore, but maybe miles away without medication for diabetes and dementia.
is just because she's elderly doesn't make her any less valuable to us.
Linda's family fears she may have bypassed the bathroom and walked to I-90, where she may have been picked up by a passing car. They believe she may be trying to get home to Montana, which is why they're now pushing for a multi-state search.
I've called Washington, Montana, but Idaho, we've been shut down 100% with Idaho.
They're turning to social media and their network of family past state lines to keep the search and hope alive. Shannon Moudy.
We are asking the public for help.
KREM 2 News.
We just need to get her.
In a story we've been following since the beginning of the year, passengers on board the Boeing plane that lost a door plug midair in January, they sat down with our Seattle station and they say they thought they were going to die and will never trust Boeing again.
Huge bang happened and like a white cloud went through the plane. It kind of looked like fire extinguisher, like powder almost. And I was immediately like, what is going on?
I don't think anyone should ever be put in that same experience that I was on that plane. For Boeing to come out and say that won't happen again, that's great. But I think I will truly believe it when it does not happen again.
With this plane specifically, the NTSB found Boeing delivered the aircraft with 4 bolts missing from the door plug. Since then, several whistleblowers have come forward with manufacturing and safety issues, including allegations that faulty parts are getting installed on Boeing planes.
Time is 7:06 and our weather conditions are looking rather calm and finally feeling a bit warmer as of today. Even our morning hours feel pretty nice with our current temperatures largely in the 50s, and the sunshine, I think, helps a lot to do with that. So no more 40s or 30s for overnight lows. Should be a lot better during the daytime hours. And we'll have 80s this afternoon plus both days this weekend. If not, we actually could hit 90 degrees for this Saturday. So Saturday, the warmer of the 2 days this weekend. Sunday, the windier of these next 2 days. And really, that windy day Sunday might be the only day that has any kind of weather hazard because we don't have any rain or thunderstorms in the forecast through the next 7 days.
All over North America, but starting to deploy units internationally.
Preserving our roads while preserving the environment. In the next 4 minutes on Up with KREM, the solution a Washington startup has come up with to make our roads last longer. But first, here's a live look outside of the Bloomsday statues at Riverfront Park. We say good morning to you, Inland Northwest. Happy Thursday. Let us know where you are watching from this morning. Grab a cup of coffee and join us for more Up with KREM. Scientists say extreme temperatures are wearing down our roads faster. But one Seattle startup has come up with a solution to make roads last longer and be better for the environment. Drew Andre from our Seattle station reports.
You don't have to look far. Potholes, cracks in the road, they're all over, and climate change is only making this problem worse. But we visited a company in Woodinville that says their new material will help these roads last longer. Those dreaded potholes, almost unavoidable.
The extreme events are the problem.
Say 3 straight days of triple-digit heat. Roads in Seattle weren't designed for that. Heat causes buckling, and cold weather plus heavy rain produces more potholes. So these rundown roads need to be replaced, and road owners are looking for stronger and more environmentally friendly pavement.
This is how much carbon is actually embedded in just a little bit of your fossil fuels, and this is what we're preventing from being emitted into the atmosphere.
Tony Pan and his team at Modern Hydrogen may have a solution. In fact, Bill Gates is an early investor. We visited their new headquarters in Woodinville, where the clean energy startup researches and develops its innovative creation. They discovered how to make clean hydrogen by pulling carbon out of natural gas. It all happens inside these large hydrogen generators and produces this.
This is solid carbon. It looks like black powdered sugar.
Now they sell the solid carbon as a clean material to put in asphalt. Asphalt's made out of rocks, but the glue that typically holds it together is the leftovers from crude oil, which emits carbon dioxide.
But our carbon not only makes this block of asphalt stronger, but because our carbon comes with no CO2 emissions, that actually makes your asphalt also cleaner.
The so-called modern asphalt is used by the county in San Antonio, Texas, and 4 other states, including Washington, but so far only private entities here. Modern Hydrogen still has a limited supply.
They're going to the highest bidder. The highest bidders so far have not been in Washington State.
Absolutely, you should try something like this.
University of Washington civil engineering professor Stephen Mensch says gaining the trust of agencies like SDOT and WashDOT takes time, and for good reason.
There's a lot of testing and there's a lot of proof of the material working before you can get approved by these road owners.
But this Seattle startup believes they're a piece of the puzzle in slowing climate change.
I expect us to be not only all over North America, but starting to deploy units internationally.
Will it be a raging success? We'll find out, but I would love to find out.
Right now, the federal government is giving away $1.2 billion to state departments of traffic to use material that has a lower carbon footprint. WashDOT has already applied for the grant. For King 5 News, I'm Drew Andre.
Heading into the inland Northwest hottest weekend so far this year. So in the next 4 minutes on Up with Krem, some handy hacks you.
Whether you're a new mom, a sports mom, or tackling the teen years, we have the advice to help make the toughest job out there a little easier. Join our Mom Squad.
Get the facts this election season with Verify.
Your money hits all the big issues affecting your wallet. From the latest financial news,
the Supreme Court ruled against President Biden's student loan forgiveness program,
to money-saving hacks to keep your finances on track.
After a simple ask, Discover dropped his interest rate to less than 1%.
And if you miss an episode, don't worry. Go to the Shows tab at the top of your screen, and you can find all the episodes covering the topics that matter most to you. Your money, helping you save, spend, and invest your money wisely.
I'm never gonna let you go. Never gonna let you go. Babe, I'm never gonna let you go. No, no, never gonna.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Never gonna let you go.
Julie was always a voracious reader. She'd carry 2 novels on an airplane because she'd read one on a 3-4 hour ride. And at some point, I began to notice that she would read a page and couldn't remember what she had just read, and she'd have to go back and read it again.
I don't remember much these days after I read, but less does for me, and I love it.
If you're looking for great local programming and more, you found it. Welcome to our streaming channel. Here you can catch up on all the latest news, weather, and sports you need. Countless hours of fresh, original content you can watch at any speed. To stay up to date on what's happening above you, around you, or around the world. Stay in the national know or binge watch your own backyard. Stream everything you love about local, plus so much more.
I watch every day on Krem 2 with Legoo. You can say I'm part of the Krem 2 Legoo crew.
He really does know the weather, and he's serious when he needs to be, but he just brings so much light.
It's important to know what the weather's going to be like today, tomorrow, for the rest of the week.
We are huge Jeremy Legoo fans, just for the way that he explains the weather.
See what they're talking about. Choose Krem 2 News.
I choose Krem 2 News.
I choose Krem 2.
I choose Krem 2 News.
I choose Krem 2 News.
Get the facts this election season with Verify.
Today is the summer solstice, the first day of astronomical summer. And today's summer solstice will be the earliest in 228 years. So the U.S. Naval Observatory says the last time it happened was on June 20th in 1796. The summer solstice gives the northern hemisphere the most daylight hours of the entire year. And the exact time of the solstice is the moment the sun reaches its highest point in the sky. That will happen at about 1:50 p.m. Pacific time. Millions of people across the U.S., though, are under an excessive heat warnings or advisories today. A lingering heat dome is prompting officials in several states to activate emergency operations and open cooling centers. The National Weather Service reports today more than 80 million people are under heat alerts. For people with outdoor jobs, there is little choice but to brave it.
Tomorrow's hydration starts tonight. So when you're finished your day, make sure you're going home and you're staying properly hydrated.
The National Weather Service says 14 states have heat alerts in effect already as the heat wave is expected to intensify. While our weather won't be quite as extreme as the rest of the country this week, high temperatures can still be dangerous if you're not careful. So here's a few hacks to stay cool this week. First, close your blinds and curtains during the day. This is huge. It's a proven way to keep your home cool. The U.S. Department of Energy reports 76% of the sunlight that hits a standard double pane window turns into heat. And in cases of extreme heat, you can also put aluminum foil covered cardboard over your windows to reflect the sun rays. Another tip, if you're having trouble cooling down, experts recommend a cold washcloth or ice pack on your pulse points. So that's where your blood vessels are closer to the skin's surface. Columbia's Climate School recommends the pulse points on your wrists, neck, elbows, feet, thighs, temples, and forehead. If you don't have an ice pack, well, you can pop a wet washcloth into the freezer. Well, do you put sunscreen when there are clouds in the sky? Brandon Lewis from our National Verify team looks into whether you can still get a sunburn on a cloudy day.
You already know it's important to lather up on sunscreen when spending a sunny day by the beach or at the pool. But what about when it's a dreary, overcast summer day? Can you still get a sunburn then? Let's verify. Our sources are the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center, Dr. Sarah Lamb, an assistant professor of dermatology with Virginia Commonwealth University School of Medicine, and Dr. Adam Friedman, chair of dermatology at George Washington University School of Medicine and Health Sciences. When the sun is in the sky, it's emitting ultraviolet radiation, which is what causes a sunburn. Clouds might block us from seeing bright sunlight, but they're just made of water vapor, which doesn't block UV rays.
So you're getting pretty much a very similar exposure that you would get on a sunny day, but you don't feel like that heat and all on your skin.
This means your skin can burn even if the sun is blocked by clouds.
I think we forget to protect ourselves with sunscreen, with physical protectants like hats, long sleeve sunglasses, things like that. And that leads to the accidental burn.
So yes, you can get a sunburn on a cloudy day. You can protect yourself by applying sunscreen with SPF 30 or higher at least every 2 hours or after swimming or sweating. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
Well, today's the first day of summer, and we are going to get a day filled with sunshine. Being it's the longest daytime of the year, with exactly 16 hours between sunrise and sunset, looks like we're going to get exactly 16 hours of sunshine today. An absolutely calm and beautiful scene with nothing but sunshine. To put it in Jeremy's words, I actually didn't even want to change the headlines because it's perfect. Lots of sunshine moving forward, no rain, no storm chances. A pretty calm summer weather pattern as our temperatures go back into the 80s. So Tim said it perfectly. It's astronomical summer. That means the northern hemisphere is tilted at the sun, and now we are at our furthest tilt, that 23.5-degree angle that the Earth has compared to the sun in orbit. That occurs at exactly 1:50 p.m. to mark our summer solstice, and that's why today ends up being our longest daytime of the year in total. So yes, our days get shorter from here on out, but there will be plenty of summer heat to go around for the season. Jet stream starting to break up a little bit in that trough pattern, but the ridge, well, that is quite powerful, and it's going to give us plenty of heat to work with without it being too scorching hot overall. Just another step warmer today as our highs get into the low 80s for Spokane and Eastern Washington, 80 degrees in Pullman, and upper 70s at worst for Coeur d'Alene and Sandpoint. That feeling quite comfortable for the summer season. But the heat builds for a couple more days because that ridge does slide over the northwest, and as we are directly underneath what is known as the axis, that center point of the ridge, that's when our weather is going to be at its hottest point. Upper 80s, some low 90s for the inland northwest. It's not a heat dome. It's not so dominant that it stays in place for several days or better yet weeks. In fact, get a little bit of a trough that tries to just slide into Washington, but no rain, no storms. It's not that strong, but it does put the very edge of this ridge and the jet stream directly on top of us. So a windy day for this upcoming Sunday. So both days this weekend kind of have their features to them. Saturday being the warmest of days. I go 85 in Coeur d'Alene, 89 Spokane, 86 in Pullman and Moscow, and up to 93 in Moses Lake. Lewiston will be our hottest spot at 94 degrees. And then Sunday is our windier of these next 2 days. Looks like our wind gusts will be 25 to 30 miles per hour. It is a dry, warm, and windy day. That does mean it will be a high fire danger day. So no campfires and no burning for this upcoming Sunday because of those winds.
Save big during Conlin's summer savings event. Save up to 70% off select items throughout the store, including one-of-a-kind, clearance, closeout items, and more. Plus, ask about available 60-month special financing. Don't miss Conlin's summer savings event.
Custom Ink helps us celebrate and drive our students' achievements with custom gear. They love Custom Ink's different styles and designs. We love how Custom Ink makes the process simple with their easy-to-use design lab, expert artists ready to help, and unbeatable customer service. Custom Ink allows our kids to show everyone their accomplishments and the pride they have in our school. When we place an order, I know they got our back, so we can focus on the kids.
Custom Ink has hundreds of products to help you feel connected. Upload your logo or start your design today at customink.com.
We all need a prescription for life. As a pediatrician, I always want to make sure that my parents know. From life-saving techniques,
really learn how to do CPR,
to the latest in medical research.
About 50% of women at some point in their lifetime will experience hair loss.
And if you miss an episode, don't worry. Go to Shows tab at the top of your screen, and you can find all the episodes covering the topics that matter most to you and the ones you love. Live your best life with Prescription for Life.
Part-time job, full-time hustle, all-time Shiro to all of us. You nurture, we listen. You teach, we thrive. You lift our spirits, but we've got to lay down the truth. It's time for you, our Shiro, to stretch for the stars. A free online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to start boosting your retirement savings today. Start saving more for retirement so you can feel prepared and live your life to the fullest. Visit aceyourretirement.org.
Spotting disinformation during an election year can be tough. Verify is your resource for the facts you need to understand what's true and what's false. From spotting artificial intelligence and manipulated social media to fact-checking claims from the candidates, get the facts with Verify.
Welcome to our streaming channel. Here you can catch up on all the latest news, weather, and sports you need. Everything you love about local, plus so much more. Welcome to our streaming channel. Here you can catch up on all the latest news, weather, and sports you need. Countless hours of fresh, original content you can watch at any speed. Everything you love about local, plus so much more.
I'm never gonna let you go. Never gonna let you go. Babe, I'm never gonna let you go. No, no, never.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Never gonna let you go.
Get the facts this election season with Verify.
There are a lot of headlines today, so let's get you caught up as you rush out the door this morning. New from overnight, Spokane police have arrested a man suspected of killing a woman in a deadly hit-and-run in downtown Spokane last week. Police took 42-year-old Gary Burns into custody yesterday. SPD found the victim, 78-year-old Janet Mann, lying face down in the road at Brown in Maine. She was taken to a hospital but died from her injuries. Burns is currently being held at the Spokane County Jail. New in the last 24 hours, the U.S. government announced a new task force geared towards salmon recovery efforts. This comes as it acknowledges the role dams have played in harming Native American tribes in the Pacific Northwest by disseminating salmon runs. A new report highlighted the pain dams cause to tribes who consider the salmon a part of their cultural identity and a crucial food source. The Spokane Indians had a doubleheader against the Everett Emeralds at Avista Stadium yesterday to make up for a game canceled back in May. The Indians took home a dub in the first matchup, winning 3-2, but the Emeralds exploded in the second game of the night. They won 9-1. Last night was also King Carl night. The special uniforms the Indians wore last night will be auctioned off later, with proceeds going to the Sandy Williams Fund. That's your rush out. For the latest updates on all of those stories, plus more, head to our website, krem.com.
The LASSI project stands for Legged Autonomous Surface Science in Analog Environments.
Still ahead on Up with Krem, how researchers are taking advantage of the terrain of Mount Hood in Oregon for their out-of-this-world project.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, please listen closely. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. It's a rate lock for your life insurance that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. Many policies you see don't have one, but you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. This plan was designed for people on a fixed income with coverage options that start at $9.95 a month. That's less than 35 cents a day. Your rate is locked in for life. Coverage can never be canceled, and your acceptance is guaranteed. You cannot be turned down because of your health. See for yourself. Call for an information kit and gift. Both are free with no obligation.
Call 1-800-618-4446 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-618-4446. 1-800-618-4446. Call now.
Whether you're a new mom,
probably the number one complaint that parents have is exhaustion and feeling like there's not enough help.
A sports mom,
my kid's just as good as their kid, or if not better. If they're on a club sport, then mine should be too.
Or tackling the teen years.
Eye rolling is not instinctive. It is not a reflex. We are not born to do it.
We have the advice to help make the toughest job out there a little easier. Join our Moms Club.
Spotting disinformation during an election year can be tough. Verify is your resource for the facts you need to understand what's true and what's false. From spotting artificial intelligence and manipulated social media to fact-checking claims from the candidates, get the facts with Verify.
Get the facts this election season with Verify.
Welcome to our streaming channel. Here you can catch up on all the latest news, weather, and sports you need. Everything you love about local, plus so much more.
Up with Krem begins now.
All of these really hurtful narratives and misleading narratives that really impact our community.
Right now on Up with Krem, how an Idaho organization looks to empower Latino leaders. Plus, 2 people are now dead from wildfires in New Mexico. This morning, how storms could impact the containment efforts.
So the more we can pull out of engineering data for science applications, the better.
Researchers on Mount Hood are training a robot to go to space. How the mountain's terrain is helping it prepare for a lunar mission. Good morning, everyone. It is 7:30 here. Welcome to Up with Krem. I'm Tim Pham. Let's start things off by taking a look at your weather forecast with meteorologist Thomas Patrick in the Weather Center. Thomas, today is going to be the longest day of the year with sunlight.
Yes, exactly. And I think it would be accurate to say we're going to get the most sunshine of any day of the year, because between sunrise and sunset, I think we see every single second of sunshine for today, which is 16 hours on the dot between the 4:51 a.m. sunrise and the 8:51 p.m. sunset. What a phenomenal day that we have ongoing right now. Finally, our temperatures aren't so frigid cold that we have to bother with any kind of jacket or sweatshirt or flannel. Looks like all that sunshine is warming us up fast, and it gets up into the 80s for this first day of summer this afternoon, and I've got plenty of 80s in the forecast moving forward.
The Idaho Department of Fish and Game says its staff misidentified a grizzly bear as a black bear 2 days before a hunter killed it. The grizzly bear was shot and killed on June 10th near the lower St. Joe River, about 5 miles from the town of St. Mary's. The hunter was given a warning instead of charges for shooting a threatened species. 2 days before the incident, the hunter recorded the video of the bear. You see it here. He sent it to Fish and Game for reviewing, expressing his concerns that it was a grizzly and not a black bear. Idaho Fish and Game says their staff misidentified the grizzly as a black bear because it lacked common features of a grizzly. They then shared the misidentification with the hunter. On Tuesday, Fish and Game said it was a mistake. They are now reviewing their staff members' part in the incident as a personnel matter. In a matter of days, the electronic dance music festival Beyond Wonderland returns to the Gorge Amphitheater this weekend. Last year, you may remember, a gunman shot and killed 2 Seattle nurses and hurt many others. The victims were Jocelyn Ruiz and Brandy Escamilla. The shooting traumatized festival attendees and led to the 2-day festival being cut short.
It was definitely like a deep, kind of mourning.
2 beautiful girls that were so young, so in love in their relationship, and just they're taken too soon.
Organizers say because of increased security measures this year, wait times to enter the campgrounds may be up to 3 hours. Since the shooting, Live Nation, the company who held the festival, and the security companies who worked the festival were sued for wrongful death. The accused gunman is James Kelly. He was an active member of the military at the time and had allegedly taken mushrooms before the attack. His next court hearing is in August. Looking ahead to next month, the ACLU of Idaho is hosting a 5-week workshop aimed at helping Latino leaders address community issues. It will provide bilingual training to better equip the Latino community with tools and skills needed to advocate effectively for immigrant rights. The themes for the 5 workshops will include roots of racism, power and oppression, and storytelling as activism. The organizers of the event say participants will develop leadership abilities and will help amplify the voices of marginalized communities to make positive change and progress in the Gem State.
We just had the legislative session, and there was a lot of narratives about being criminals, drug dealing, all of this really hurtful narratives and misleading narratives that really impact our community and how people often view our community. So we're really trying to change that.
To sign up or to learn more, you can head to acluidaho.org. Meanwhile, American Immigration Court has a backlog millions of cases deep. Some recent headlines claim the Biden administration is clearing that backlog by simply granting migrants amnesty. Casey Decker verifies if that's true.
As President Biden cracks down on illegal crossings at the southern border, his critics still argue he's been too lenient. Republicans in Congress claim Biden granted, quote, mass amnesty to 350,000 migrants by simply dismissing their asylum cases. Verify viewer Nancy texted us to ask if that's true. So Nancy, let's verify. Does dismissing an asylum case grant that person amnesty? Our sources are the Transactional Records Access Clearinghouse, TRAC, at Syracuse University, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, the Council on Foreign Relations, and Aaron Hall, an immigration attorney. The way asylum most commonly works, a migrant crosses the border illegally, then intentionally turns themselves over to a border protection officer. The government then begins removal proceedings, and the migrant argues they shouldn't be deported because they aren't safe in their home country. Whether they'll be granted asylum is decided in immigration court, a process that can take months or even years. Data compiled by TRAC says there are more than 1.3 million people awaiting asylum hearings. Sometimes the government clears that backlog by simply dismissing a migrant's case, neither granting them asylum nor deporting them. Immigration attorney Aaron Hall says dismissals aren't always just to clear backlog, but that is a common reason.
It's really one of the tools that they're using most to try to focus all of their resources, their limited resources, on what they've deemed their priorities. So they're trying to clear out other types of cases so that they can go after national security, public safety, and recent arrivals.
According to TRAC data, it's true that there have been more than 350,000 dismissals under President Biden. They also happened under Trump and Obama, but far less often. When an asylum case is dismissed, the person is allowed to continue living in the U.S., but they aren't given any actual legal status. This can make it hard for them to obtain a work permit, and it means they could get detained again sometime in the future.
They're not under an order of deportation to leave the country. What it doesn't do is forgive the immigration violations or mean that they're somehow safe. They're just awaiting the day when they might be put back into the deportation system because they don't have immigration status. So it's kind of putting their situation on hold and in limbo.
This differs from amnesty, which effectively pardons migrants for illegally crossing the border and gives them legal status. As a result, immigrants are often upset when their cases get dismissed.
They've filed evidence, they've gotten witnesses ready to testify, and then all of a sudden they find out their case has been dismissed years into it.
So we can verify, no, dismissing an asylum case is not the same as granting amnesty. With your Verify, I'm Casey Decker.
Spokane's got a very vibrant talent community, and Expo, we want to highlight all the diversity that we have in this wonderful city of ours, county. Yeah.
Happening today at 6 p.m., the long-awaited Spokane's Got Talent show kicks off at the Spokane Pavilion. This is video from the auditions last month. The event will feature a variety of talent from more than 20 performers. Another reason to get excited for this, well, the singer-songwriter Philip Phillips, known for his song Gone, Gone, Gone and American Idol, will be there as a special guest performer. And best of all, the talent show is free for everyone to attend. Also happening tomorrow, Expo 74 is partnering with the Lands Council for the Legislative Summit. The full-day event includes keynote speeches by Washington Governor Jay Inslee and Spokane Mayor Lisa Brown. The free event runs from 7:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. tomorrow at the Spokane Convention Center Ballroom. The summit's focuses include climate policy and indigenous rights. One of the main events include a symbolic salmon ceremony at noon, conducted by the Colville Confederated Tribe Salmon Chief. After the event, there will be a traditional canoe race on the Spokane River at 3:30 p.m. at the Don Cardong Bridge. You can register to attend the event through the link there on your screen.
This research is motivated by NASA's Moon to Mars objectives.
In the next 5 minutes on Up with Krem, how the terrain of Mount Hood in Oregon is proving useful for researchers. We want to let you know tonight is Krem 2 night at the Spokane Indians game. Mark, Whitney, Jeremy, and Travis will all be at Avista Stadium tonight ahead of the Indians game at 6:35. So come on out to support the Indians and meet our team. Here's a live look outside of the Butterfly at Riverfront Park. Look at that sun. It is going to be a nice day, friends. 57 degrees here at 7:40. We're glad you're joining us here on Up with Krem. We'll be right back.
Julie was always a voracious reader. She'd carry 2 novels on an airplane because she'd read one on a 3-4 hour ride. And at some point, I began to notice that she would read a page and couldn't remember what she had just read, and she'd have to go back and read it again.
I don't remember much these days after I read, but less does for me, and I love it.
Daily Blast Live is more than a talk show. They're family. The hosts are relatable, entertaining, and authentic. We're all going to be like, what? Engaging the audience with powerful stories and talking to the stars.
Turn up the notch on that.
It's like I'm on the verge of tears.
Thank you so much for doing this.
It's so interesting.
It's time to be a part of the DBL family.
I'm so proud of our DBL Nation.
Me too. Watch DBL on our station's streaming app.
The day's biggest stories in the news.
If you're looking for great local programming and more, you found it. Welcome to our streaming channel. Here you can catch up on all the latest news, weather, and sports you need. Countless hours of fresh, original content you can watch at any speed. To stay up to date on what's happening above you, around you, or around the world. Stay in the national know or binge watch your own backyard. Stream everything you love about local, plus so much more.
We all need a prescription for life, from life-saving techniques to the latest in medical research. Live your best life with Prescription for Life.
Welcome to our streaming channel. Here you can catch up on all the latest news, weather, and sports you need. Countless hours of fresh, original content you can watch at any speed. Everything you love about local, plus so much more.
This is Daily Blast Live, right here at this desk, 5 days a week. No topics are off limits. I think it's an okay conversation to have. We have fiery debate.
That's not true. Can I finish?
You just got me all riled up. We tell heartfelt stories. We're so emotional over here. We talk to the stars.
Turn up the notch on that.
You on top of your game.
Thank you. DBL is entertaining.
I was like in shock.
That's why we watch. It's time to be a part of the DBL family. Watch DBL on our station's streaming app.
Right now, this morning, we are tracking the Pioneer Fire north of Lake Chelan. It is burning in such a remote area, fire officials now say it may burn until Halloween. As of this morning, it is still 0% contained. These are new photos of the fire we just got into our newsroom. The fire has now burned nearly 4,000 acres. Right now, there is work underway to recommission old roads near the fire to get more crews on the ground. With the challenging terrain, firefighters have been forced to attack the fire by boat and air. Crews are dropping more than 100,000 gallons of water on the fire a day. The cause of the fire is still under investigation. Meanwhile, this morning, a second person is dead as wildfires continue to burn through New Mexico. Officials say the flames have now burned around 1,400 structures. CBS News' Duarte Geraldino has the latest this morning.
Storm clouds and raindrops in New Mexico bring hopes of relief from two massive fires that have charred more than 20,000 acres since Monday. But the weather also raising the threat of high winds and flash floods. Officials now warning people who live nearby, get to higher ground.
We are not out of the woods. And while this weather is helpful to the fire, not helpful to the floods.
New Mexico's governor on Wednesday confirming at least 1,400 structures have burned, and that number may include around 500 homes.
Non-stop sirens.
Christopher Bright and his mother are choosing to stay close to their Ruidoso home and wait out the blaze.
We have a few animals. We're right here next to the hospital, and we figured,
we still have Wi-Fi.
Their neighbors and thousands of other people heeded the warnings to evacuate.
We are very concerned about the potential loss of life. We know that there are several people still unaccounted for.
60-year-old local musician Patrick Pearson died in the fire. His children are now trying to convince others, get out before it's too late.
No way is an easy way to go out, but a wildfire is just so traumatic and devastating. And this isn't a joke. If they tell you to go, you need to go.
The state police are investigating the death of a second person whose remains were found in a burned car on Tuesday. Duarte Geraldino, CBS News.
New Mexico Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury says the entire congressional delegation for the state sent a letter to President Joe Biden asking him to sign an emergency declaration for the fires.
It's quarter to the top of the hour. It's a beautiful morning here in the inland Northwest as the sunshine is starting to warm us up very quickly. In fact, I do see a few low 60s across central Washington for at least the current hour. And as we approach 8 a.m., we're going to see more and more areas already get into the 60s this morning. 80s this afternoon, and 80s we stay through this weekend. In fact, we do have a chance to maybe get to up to 90 degrees for this Saturday and what is going to be probably our warmest day so far of the year. Sunday will be our windiest day of our upcoming forecast. But what you're going to see, or maybe not see, in these next 7 days are any rain chances, of which there are none for these first 7.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, please listen closely. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. It's a rate lock for your life insurance that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. Many policies you see don't have one, but you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. This plan was designed for people on a fixed income with coverage options that start at $9.95 a month. That's less than 35 cents a day. Your rate is locked in for life. Coverage can never be canceled, and your acceptance is guaranteed. You cannot be turned down because of your health. See for yourself. Call for an information kit and gift. Both are free with no obligation.
Call 1-800-618-4446 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-618-4446. 1-800-618-4446. Call now.
Are you skeptical of headlines and what you see on social media? We are too. The Verify newsletter helps you distinguish between true and false information by answering your questions. It provides fast facts on trending topics, spotlights major stories, and even includes a daily fun fact for all those trivia buffs out there. Get Verify's fast facts delivered every weekday to your email inbox. Go to verifythis.com/email to check it out.
Your money hits all the big issues affecting your wallet. From the latest financial news,
the Supreme Court ruled against President Biden's student loan forgiveness program,
to money-saving hacks to keep your finances on track.
After a simple ask, Discover dropped his interest rate to less than 1%.
And if you miss an episode, don't worry. Go to the Shows tab at the top of your screen, and you can find all the episodes covering the topics that matter most to you. Your money, helping you save, spend, and invest your money wisely.
We all need a prescription for life, from life-saving techniques
really learn how to do CPR
to the latest in medical research.
About 50% of women at some point in their lifetime will experience hair loss.
Live your best life with Prescription for Life.
Welcome to our streaming channel. Here you can catch up on all the latest news, weather, and sports you need. Countless hours of fresh, original content you can watch at any speed. Everything you love about local, plus so much more.
Researchers and scientists at Mount Hood want to see how a robot can handle walking through ice, dirt, and rocks. Our Portland station tells us what they're hoping to do with the data.
At 7,000 feet along the Magic Mile chairlift, there's still plenty of snow for almost late June. But this group is more interested about the science up here and not the freshly carved slopes.
This research is motivated by NASA's Moon to Mars objectives and kind of future work that is putting robots and humans on the moon and then eventually Mars together.
Christina Wilson is an assistant professor at Oregon State University in the Collaborative Robotics and Intelligent System Institute. She's been working on this project for the last 2 years with other universities from around the country, including USC, Georgia, and the biggest of them all, NASA. And as you guessed it, the research name comes with a very big acronym.
The LASSI project stands for Legged Autonomous Surface Science in Analog Environments, and the legs in that are come from the Spirit robots.
This is Spirit. The four-legged robot that resembles a dog is helping this team get back to the moon. There's a reason why researchers chose Mount Hood for this project. The big one is the terrain. Of course, the rock, the dirt, the sand, and the snow and ice will give the robot an idea of what the conditions could be like on the moon.
And that data is actually interesting to scientists. It tells us things about sort of the composition of the surface that the robot is walking over.
It gives us an analog where we have the same types of rocks.
Kenton Fisher is a space scientist with NASA.
At NASA, we're often looking at ways to adapt the engineering developments that are going on, things like rovers or robotic dogs, and use them for science applications.
He's hoping the information they get down on Earth will lead to more discoveries in outer space.
So the more we can pull out of engineering data for science applications, the better. And so that was what really drew me into this project initially.
Even though he knows there will be a few missteps before that can happen.
It is 7:51 on this first day of summer. Looks like an absolutely beautiful day for today. Finally, we got our low temperatures away from those 30s like earlier in the week. We got a lot more enjoyable and comfortable summer weather ahead of us. Not too scorching hot, but again, not too frosty like it was earlier in the week. Nothing but sunshine, and our high temperatures are back into the 80s. The only word of caution is that Sunday will be a windy day and thus a higher fire danger day as a result. As mentioned, today's the first day of summer. The solstice occurs at exactly 1:50 p.m. That's the point where the northern hemisphere is tilted the most towards the sun, exactly 23.5 degrees to be precise, and that marks the astronomical start to the summer season. Now, what about meteorological summer? Well, that starts on the 1st of June always, because it's just easier to do record keeping and data keeping when you have the months split perfectly for the seasons. But this, the first official day of the summer season, and it's very summer-like. The jet stream is actually quite weak above us right now, so that's why our winds are actually fairly calm, and that trough has really broken down. So it's no longer cold like it was earlier in the week. Instead, we are warming up nicely. Another step warmer today compared to yesterday, with our high temperatures at around the low 80s for eastern Washington or upper 70s at worst for North Idaho. An absolutely beautiful and comfortable day overall. For our computer modeling, I show you the region-wide view because there's no rain or storms to track anytime soon here, but some subtleties in the jet stream, which is why I wanted to plot and analyze that for you. First of all, on Saturday, the exact center point of this ridge, known as the axis, is directly over the inland northwest. That's what gives us likely our warmest day of our forecast, that for Saturday. And as we find ourselves towards the edge of this ridge, the jet stream is actually a little bit strong on this day, which is Sunday. That gives us a more windy day to work with. So Saturday, our warmest day, Sunday, our windiest day. And yes, that does mean it would be a higher fire danger day because of the wind speeds at around 30 miles per hour. But there's your almost borderline hot. I like to call hot when it's 90 degrees outside. I forecast 89. Close enough. I think it'll be a pretty hot weekend, especially with abundant sunshine for both days. So Saturday, the warmer of the 2 days this weekend. Sunday, the windier of those days. We have plenty of days at least in the 80s for now, which is about 10 to 15 degrees above average.
It is definitely not getting easier to repair cars today. Auto manufacturers are going to a platform that locks independent aftermarket out. Without access to data, we will lose out on the ability to have a choice of where we take our vehicle for service. I support the Repair Act because I want to protect my legacy, my customer's choice, and the independent aftermarket that I am so proud to be a part of.
This is Daily Blast Live, right here at this desk, 5 days a week. No topics are off limits. I think it's an okay conversation to have. We have fiery debate. That's not true. Can I finish? You just got me all riled up. We tell heartfelt stories. We're so emotional over here. We talk to the stars.
Turn up the notch on that.
You on top of your game.
Thank you. DBL is entertaining.
I was like in shock.
That's why we watch. It's time to be a part of the DBL family. Watch DBL on our station's streaming app.
It's an election year, and we know it can be hard to spot disinformation. Whether it's conversations with friends or what you see online, Verify is dedicated to helping you distinguish between what's real and what's fake this election season. From spotting artificial intelligence and manipulated social media to fact-checking claims from the candidates, the Verify team is here to make sure you understand what's true and what's false before you vote. Get the facts this election season with Verify.
Hurricane Idalia hit Florida's west coast.
After the mass shooting, all of Nashville is coming together.
If you or your child has student loan debt, listen up. Get the latest headlines from near and far in the news.
If you're looking for great local programming and more, you found it. Welcome to our streaming channel. Here you can catch up on all the latest news, weather, and sports you need. Countless hours of fresh, original content you can watch at any speed. To stay up to date on what's happening above you, around you, or around the world. Stay in the national know or binge watch your own backyard. Stream everything you love about local, plus so much more.
Get the facts this election season with Verify.
Your money, helping you save, spend, and invest your money wisely.
Get the facts this election season with Verify.
Here's the local forecast I'm working on over on KSKN 22. It's the first day of summer, and the summer weather is here right on cue. Our temperatures are into the 80s today. We'll have several days in the 80s for our upcoming forecast, including a pretty hot day this upcoming Saturday.
Here are the top trending stories on krem.com right now. Let's take a look at what you are clicking on. Number 3 right now, Spokane police arrested a man suspected of killing a woman in a deadly hit-and-run in downtown Spokane last week. Police took 42-year-old Gary Burns into custody yesterday. SPD found the victim, 78-year-old Janet Mann, lying face down in the road at Brown and Main. She was taken to a hospital but died from her injuries. Burns is currently being held at the Spokane County Jail. Number 2, the Coeur d'Alene Police Department now know what caused a fire at a department building. Investigators say one of the batteries of the department's e-bikes showed evidence of a catastrophic failure. On Tuesday, Coeur d'Alene City Council approved a resolution for an emergency declaration requested by the police department because of the fire. And our top story on krem.com right now, the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office called off the search for a woman who went missing on Sunday night. 62-year-old Linda Kent was last seen near a boat launch at Old Mission State Park in Cataldo. The Sheriff's Office called off the search because they exhausted all of their resources. Searchers spent most of the day on Monday combing through the area around the park. Coming up at 8:05 on Up with Krem, we hear exclusively from Kent's family as they continue a private search in North Idaho.
There are a lot of us now, and it means so much when we can all be together, especially when we can do something good, like our yearly service project. We're also running a t-shirt fundraiser through Custom Ink to help raise more money and awareness for the cause. Our t-shirt fundraiser with Custom Ink makes it easy to share our campaign and help our community, and their design services team helped us get a design we love. I'm proud that we can make a difference together as a community. Come together for a cause. Get started today at customink.com.
Welcome to our streaming channel. Here you can catch up on all the latest news, weather, and sports you need. Countless hours of fresh, original content you can watch at any speed. Everything you love about local, plus so much more.
We all need a prescription for life, from life-saving techniques
Really learn how to do CPR.
to the latest in medical research.
About 50% of women at some point in their lifetime will experience hair loss.
Live your best life with Prescription for Life.
Julie was always a voracious reader. She'd carry 2 novels on an airplane because she'd read one on a 3-4 hour ride. And at some point, I began to notice that she would read a page and couldn't remember what she had just read, and she'd have to go back and read it again.
I don't remember much these days after I read, but less does for me, and I love it.
Are you skeptical of headlines and what you see on social media? We are too. The Verify newsletter helps you distinguish between true and false information by answering your questions. It provides fast facts on trending topics, spotlights major stories, and even includes a daily fun fact for all those trivia buffs out there. Get Verify's fast facts
before you vote. Get the facts.
Inbox. Go to verifythis.com/email to check it out.
Whether you're a new mom, a sports mom, or tackling the teen years, we have the advice to help make the toughest job out there a little easier. Join our Mom Squad.
This is Daily Blast Live, right here at this desk, 5 days a week. No topics are off limits. I think it's an okay conversation to have. We have fiery debate.
That's not true. Can I finish?
You just got me all riled up. We tell heartfelt stories. We're so emotional over here. We talk to the stars.
Turn up the notch on that.
You on top of your game.
Thank you. DBL is entertaining.
I was like in shock.
That's why we watch. It's time to be a part of the DBL family. Watch DBL on our station's streaming app.
Part-time job, full-time hustle, all-time hero to all of us. You nurture, we listen. You teach, we thrive. You lift our spirits, but we've got to lay down the truth. It's time for you, our Shiro, to stretch for the stars. A free online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to start boosting your retirement savings today. Start saving more for retirement so you can feel prepared and live your life to the fullest. Visit aceyourretirement.org.
This is not your typical money show. Your money hits all the big issues affecting your wallet. Your money helping you save, spend, and invest your money wisely.
Are you skeptical of headlines and what you see on social media? We are too. The Verify newsletter helps you distinguish between true and false information by answering your questions. It provides fast facts on trending topics, spotlights major stories, and even includes a daily fun fact for all those trivia buffs out there. Get Verify's fast facts delivered every weekday to your email inbox. Go to verifythis.com/email to check it out.
We all need a prescription for life, from life-saving techniques
Really learn how to do CPR.
to the latest in medical research.
About 50% of women at some point in their lifetime will experience hair loss.
Live your best life with Prescription for Life.
Locked On NBA Podcast.
The Celtics are significantly better. They'll be well rested. If the Celtics don't win in a sweep, I think that we might start to talk. Like, all right, are we sure the Celtics are the juggernaut we thought?
Listen or watch today wherever you get podcasts.
Get the facts this election season with Verify.
Get the facts this election season with Verify.
We'll continue digging for more information. In the meantime, this is a developing story, and we'll continue to bring you updates throughout the morning as we get them. The qualification deadline for CNN's presidential debate next week is hours away. Candidates have through...
Mark Few compared new Zag Ismaila Diani to Roni Turioff, gave an update on steel venters, and shared his thoughts on the new teams joining the WCC. And we break it all down on today's Locked On Zags podcast.
You are Locked On Zags, your daily podcast on the Gonzaga Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, y'all? Happy Thursday, and welcome into the Locked On Zags podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host and longtime Gonzaga podcaster, Andy Patton, here to bring you news and updates on all things Zag athletics. Folks watching on YouTube, not a Boston Celtics fan. I know they just won the championship. This is a Kelly Olynyk jersey. We are going to talk about Kelly a little bit later in the show, but the main headline for today, Mark Few, he spoke to reporters for about 25 minutes, had a press conference before he heads off to Paris for the Olympic Games. Listened to the press conference, pulled my favorite quotes. We're going to talk about all of them today. We're going to talk about what he said about the team's newcomers. We're going to talk about what he said about how the team navigates the NIL and the transfer portal era, his thoughts on the ever-changing landscape in college athletics. We're also going to talk about the new teams in the WCC. Mark Few had not a lot of quotes about conference realignment, but a few, and some body language stuff that we're going to talk about a little bit here. So we're just going to get into all of that for today's show. All about Mark Few's press conference. Want to give a special shout out to Theo Lawson, Jim Meehan, and the rest of the folks at the Spokesman Review. The press conference is available on YouTube in its entirety, all 26 minutes. I will post a link in the show notes on audio and video platforms so you can hear the entire raw interview or press conference with Mark Few there. They did a fantastic job, asked a lot of the questions, so I want to give them a shout out before getting into this conversation. So here's the first segment. We're going to talk about Mark Few's quotes on the newcomers as well as steel venters, as well as a nice quote about the returning players on this roster. Start with Ismaila Diani, because that was the first question that was asked to Mark Few during the press conference. It had just happened that he was confirmed on the roster. Mark Few said, quote, on Diani, I think he's going to run the floor great. I think he's going to be a great rim protector. Reminds me of Roni Turioff, got a great attitude and a real positive energy. He's something different. So I do think the Roni Turioff comparison was slightly more about like personality-wise and just energy and enthusiasm type things, but they're both similar size, obviously both international prospects. Roni from France, Diani is from Senegal, but has been playing in Spain. Sounds like there's a lot of optimism around the future for Ismaila Diani. I think the big question with Diani is going to be how long until he starts really contributing. We're not expecting him to be a big contributor next season. Is it the year after that? Is he a two and done guy? Does he spend all 4 years at Gonzaga? Those are things we don't know. Obviously, Mark Few doesn't know the answers to those either, but it sure sounds like a player that Mark Few and the staff is really excited about his future. You don't toss around Roni Turioff's name unless you're pretty excited about what that player is going to bring to your program. Few also had great quotes on Caliph Battle. I'm just going to read it right here. He says, quote, Caliph is going to help us a bunch. The best thing we did during this offseason is we added pieces that bring different aspects to the program that we don't have. His ability to get fouled is at the highest level, I think, in college basketball. Yeah, Caliph Battle had, I think, like 60 more made free throws than Graham Ike had free throw attempts last year. And Graham Ike led Gonzaga in free throw attempts. Part of this is Caliph Battle just has a freakish amount of free throw attempts, free throw makes. He was elite at getting the free throw line. And part of it, as Mark Few alluded to, is that Gonzaga, that wasn't really an area of strength for them last year. The personnel with the smaller guards, I think they didn't have a lot of guys who bully their way to the rim and try to draw contact and get to the free throw line. That's just not really an area that last year's roster construction really allowed them to utilize very much. And Caliph Battle, Mark Few kind of went on in this quote. He basically said he's a different body type, a different kind of figure than what they've had on the wing in the past. And he's absolutely right. Battle's not very tall, but he's thick, he's sturdy, and he's a hellraiser at getting to the basket and getting into guys and trying to get to the free throw line. And that's an element that is going to make opposing defenses have to worry about that, in addition to the outside shooting that other players in the team possess, and in addition to dealing with Graham down low and Ryan out on the perimeter. So I think Battle is going to be a guy who really can contribute in ways that the Zags didn't have last year. And that's what Mark's alluding to with this quote here. We also talked a little bit about Michael Ajayi. He said, we had great communication, referring to the time that Ajayi was still going through the draft process. Mark Few also said, quote, he made a great decision. Totally. Of course, Mark Few is going to think that, but so do we, right? Going on, Mark said, everybody was on the same page and he was able to get some great feedback and some great experience. Now he's back here and has a couple practices under his belt and he's doing great. This was the best case scenario with Michael Ajayi. Something we talked about a lot on the podcast was him going through the process and returning to Gonzaga is going to be a net benefit for Michael Ajayi and a net benefit for Gonzaga. And that's what Mark Few is alluding to here. He got feedback, not just from the combine, but also from his individual workouts, which I think is a part of this conversation that doesn't get talked about a lot. And we didn't talk about it a ton too, of like, yeah, the combine's great and getting that feedback at the combine is huge, but the specific feedback from individual workouts, he got to go up against, compete directly one-on-one with other players in this draft class and see, where he thrived against them, where he maybe didn't thrive against them, got that direct feedback from coaches. Again, Ajayi was in Toronto the day of the NBA draft deadline. Obviously, he returned to school, but he was literally getting feedback up until the last possible minute. And there's just no way in my mind that that's not a big benefit for Michael Ajayi, for Mark Few, for the Gonzaga Bulldogs heading into this season. He talked a little bit about Emmanuel Innocente, basically just said, yeah, he's still in Italy, and then kind of moved on. So I wouldn't read too much into that, but just didn't have a lot of takes on Innocente. But he did mention Braden Smith and says, to his credit, I think he sees the big picture and made a decision to go in with that being the plan, of course, referring to Braden Smith redshirting this upcoming season. Again, another guy that seems like there's a lot of excitement about him, and Mark Few didn't spend a lot of time talking about Braden Smith, but acknowledged that, they had a lot of great communication and that they were talking about what that plan was that they had for him. And he was happy to hear him kind of look at it from a big picture perspective and value that plan and decide it was the best option for him. Mark Few also talked about Steel Venters, and I think that's an important one, obviously, as we wait to get some updates on where Steel Venters is at. We talked about Steel a weekish, 2 weeks ago. There was a great article again by Theo Lawson at the Spokesman Review, kind of getting an update on Steel Venters' injury. And Mark Few provided another one, which is a bit of a non-update. I'll read what he said here. He said, quote, he's definitely on track. sometimes when you get these injuries, this is kind of the danger zone where they are feeling good, but they aren't quite ready to go, but you feel like you're ready to go. Josh, our trainer, and him have done a great job. He's shooting full speed and stuff, but he's not cleared to practice yet. Yeah, I've heard about this too. I have a buddy who's an athletic trainer, and there's definitely a period of time where you start to feel like you're 100%. You're moving pain free, and you're like, I can ramp up, I can go. And high level athletes, they're wanting to ramp up and go as soon as they possibly can. But just because you're feeling better and the joints and the ligaments are pain free and they're not swollen or whatever, doesn't mean that you're cleared to go. And it sounds like the Zags are taking every precaution here to make sure they don't push Steele back early. And why wouldn't you in June? There is absolutely no reason to push Steele Venters at this point. It just doesn't make sense. If 2 months from now he's still feeling really good, you can start to kind of push him a little bit more. But even then, that's still only early September. You want him to probably be going full speed by around then, certainly by October if you want him fully ready for the start of the season, but there's no need to push him now. And it sounds like he's perfectly on track with where they want him to be. Few didn't specify if he's going to be ready for the start of the season or not, just that he's on track. We don't know what exactly he's on track for, but I think reading the tea leaves here, I think the plan and just knowing the timeline on ACLs generally, the hope is that he is ready to start contributing right away when the season begins. But again, they're not pushing him any sooner than that. And I think that's the smart move here. Murphy also had a nice quote about the returning players on the roster. Obviously, he got asked a lot of questions about the newcomers, but somebody asked a question about, like, what does it mean to you, to this program, to have had all these players come back when they didn't necessarily have to do that. And Mark Few said, quote, "That's the key, retention. I think this group of guys deserves a ton of credit for staying together and not just jumping in the portal for the heck of it." And I love that quote, just for the heck of it. And he went on and kind of mentioned, like, a lot of guys are trying to up the price, and he's glad our guys stayed focused and have a common goal and wanted to get to that together. And I think we talk a lot about roster construction in college athletics, and you certainly see other programs that are adding 8, 9, 10, 11 guys in the transfer portal year after year. A lot of them are coaching changes, which makes sense, but it's just not sustainable to be rebuilding entire rosters year over year. And I think the model of success is using the transfer portal to supplement areas where you need additional depth, or like Mark Few talked about with Battle, bringing in guys who bring something to the roster that you don't have with the core group you have, which makes sense. You have a core group of 4 returning starters, multiple returning depth options, and you think, okay, what is missing out of this group? And obviously you needed to replace Anton Watson, but Mark Few also said we need somebody who can drive to the basket, get to the free throw line. So they go get a guy in Caleb Battle who can do that. They wanted a bigger body rim protector type, and they wanted a developmental big, so they go get Diani, and then Mark Few just, because he can, he also cleaned up his backcourt for the future with Braden Smith and Innocente. But the ability to do that, all of that is predicated on your core pieces voluntarily choosing to return. And as much as we want to give credit to Mark Few and the staff for the offseason that they've had, the players they've brought in the portal, which we should, and we do on the show, we give them their flowers. None of this happens without the key core group for Gonzaga returning. And I think it's very important. And he did a good job of acknowledging that. And I want to do a good job of acknowledging that too. This doesn't happen without Nemhard and Hickman and Graham and Ben and all those guys choosing to return for another season with Gonzaga. Well, Mark Few said he hasn't thought much about Grand Canyon or Seattle U. Said he's just trying to get through day to day with USA basketball. Don't blame him there. But he did make his feelings about Washington State and Oregon State pretty clear. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. Right after I tell you about today's sponsor, eBay Motors. Folks, passion, drive, and patience, that's the formula for winning championships, and it's also what helps keep your ride or die alive. And eBay Motors has everything that you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits to LED headlights and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. Plus, with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll always find exactly what you are looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home that W. So folks, keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. And eBay's Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. All right, folks, segment 2, still Eddie Patton, still Locked On Zags podcast, and we are still going through the transcript of Mark Few's 25-minute press conference before he heads off to Paris for the Olympic Games. We're going to close the show talking about some of his thoughts on being a coach for the Olympics, working with the coaches with that staff, and some of the fantastic things he said about that. But what I want to do now is talk about a couple quotes he had on conference realignment, as well as some quotes he had about NIL, the new era of college athletics, and kind of how Gonzaga has navigated that space. We don't get to hear Mark Few talk about this very often. Mark Few is also very careful with what he says. He is a master of coach speak, which is basically saying a lot of words that don't actually say a whole lot. Somebody who's been to a lot of press conferences, particularly somebody who covered Pete Carroll for 2 years. Pete Carroll was the master at sounding enthusiastic and saying a whole lot. And then when you look at your quotes later, you're like, well, he didn't really say anything. Mark Few is pretty good at that as well. But the body language in particular, when talking about conference realignment, I thought was pretty notable. Reporter asked him about Grand Canyon and Seattle U joining the conference next year, adding some depth to the WCC, what he thought about that. And Mark Few was very honestly said, I haven't really thought much about it. That's what he said. He said, he kind of made a joke afterwards of like, I'm focused on USA basketball. I'm just trying to get through that every day, etc. And he kind of used that same answer when he was asked about like a retirement timeline. He's like, I don't think about that stuff. I don't think about 5-year timelines, 10-year timelines, whatever. So he wasn't trying to be super dismissive, but he was also clear. This is not something, and I believe him. I don't think he's lying about that. I don't think that he has spent a lot of brain capacity thinking about Grand Canyon or Seattle U. I do think that he has an opinion about Grand Canyon and Seattle U joining the WCC, and I think that he was intentionally did not share said opinion about those two schools joining the WCC. But I also believe him when he said that I'm not really thinking about it, because why would he be thinking about that right now? He has bigger fish to fry currently with USA basketball, and then, of course, with the upcoming season. Same reporter followed up and asked about Washington State and Oregon State, who are obviously joining the conference this season and therefore should be and are more on the forefront of Mark Few's mind as he's going to face those two teams a combined 4 times this year. And his quotes about that, well, they stood out. There's a reason there was a lot of kerfuffle on social media from Washington State fans about Mark Few's quotes, because this is what he said, quote, "It certainly changed our non-league stuff. We've got a lot less non-league games, which are very important to us. Throw some Northwest teams in here so our travel won't be as bad." That is pretty clear, as Mark Few is going to be. He's not particularly happy about this. And this shouldn't be a shock. It's not a shock to me. It's not a shock to most people who followed Gonzaga basketball, who know that Mark Few cares a lot about prioritizing his non-conference schedule to getting in some of those elite marquee non-conference games, getting in a 3-team MTE every year, and getting those bye games as tune-ups as well. Those are things that are very important to Mark Few and Gonzaga basketball. There is a reason that about 10 years ago, Gonzaga stopped playing Washington State in the non-conference. And that reason was publicized. They did not think it was a worthy game to continue to have on their non-conference schedule. You can agree or disagree with that sentiment. There is more to non-conference scheduling than strength of schedule and how it impacts your net ranking and things like that. Although, because of how important those things are, coaches kind of focus on that more than anything else. But the regional aspect of the rivalry, I think, mattered more than maybe the Gonzaga staff. They didn't care about that as much as I think a lot of the fans did. Let's put it that way. And now they're in the conference. And Gonzaga's going to play in Pullman. And they're going to host them in Spokane. And they're going to play in Corvallis and host Oregon State. And Mark Few kind of, I don't want to say derisively, but he acknowledged like, oh, it makes our travel easier, which it felt like a slightly dismissive way to discuss those two programs of, oh, they're close to us. Was kind of like the nicest thing that he was willing to say about Oregon State and Washington State joining the conference is they're close by. And I think that was intentional. Again, he didn't come out and say, we're pissed about this. We're adamantly opposed to it. I hate these programs. Like, of course, he's not going to say anything like that. I don't think he thinks that. But he, in his way, made it pretty clear that he would rather have 16 conference games and 2 more non-conference games than having 18 conference games. And I think that opinion would be true pretty much regardless of who was added to the conference. If somehow the WCC added 2 elite basketball programs, maybe Mark Few would change his tune on that, but they didn't. Washington State was good last year. Every player who was on last year's roster is gone. David Riley, I think, is a good coach, taking over from Eastern Washington. I think Washington State's going to be fine, but they're going to be a mid-level team in the conference. Maybe they can push up to 4th, 5th, maybe 3rd. I wouldn't be stunned if they're in that conversation, but they're not moving the needle all that much. And Mark Few straight up said, yeah, they're local, which is nice, but it gives us less non-conference games. And he's upset about that. And I think that's not a surprise that that's the opinion that he had, but also not a surprise that it didn't go over very well with Washington State fans. Should make the games even more interesting this year. So I guess if we're taking a positive out of that, it would be that. Murphy was also asked about the new era, the changing times with pay for play and NIL and transfer portal and kind of various, newness of college athletics. He had some good quotes about that here. I'll read them here. He said, quote, basically you adapt or you don't survive. And I'll insert here, I have said the phrase adapt or die on this show quite a few times recently. And when I was listening to the press conference, I was really hoping that Mark Few was going to also say adapt or die, but he went with adapt or you don't survive, which, whatever. I'll roll my eyes at that, I guess. Continuing Mark Few's quote, he said, we're pretty much a leaderless ship right now in college athletics. I hope we can get to the point where they will allow a lot of us coaches who have been doing this the right way. They just need to listen to the guys who have been doing it every day. I think we could have not been in this position, but we are now, and hopefully we can piece this thing together and get a little more structure and organization. Not a particularly controversial quote. I think that's how a lot of coaches are feeling right now is, hey, we're directionless. There's not a lot of direction. There's not a lot of rules. The rules that there are getting challenged in court, and frequently those rules are then getting upended. Nobody is steering the ship right now, and a lot of older coaches have said, I wish we'd been consulted more on this, been able to say our piece on that, and I think that's reasonable. He mentioned football and basketball because obviously it's driven by those two sports primarily. But again, not a quote that is particularly surprising, but again, the sentiment shared by many coaches and people in this industry of like, hey, we're not really sure the direction it's going. We're not super comfortable with it. We wish it had gone a different way, but that's the way the cookie crumbles, as it were. He got asked more specifically about Gonzaga and their ability to kind of hang in the new NIL era. And he almost cut the question off a little bit and basically said, the best thing about Gonzaga and always has been is that we adapt and are open to growth. We've navigated our way through all this other stuff for the last 25 years. I like our chances. And I thought that was a fantastic way to kind of bookend that conversation. And it's something I've kind of shared on the show a little bit too, of like Gonzaga has continued to adjust to new things in college basketball. They were ahead of the curve on international recruits. They were ahead of the curve on grad transfers. They were ahead of the curve on pursuing transfers to have them sit out and develop behind the scenes. They've been kind of continually been ahead of the curve. And I think right now they're ahead of the curve on pursuing a full 13 scholarship roster and having some of those players be earmarked for future seasons, as it were. Not a lot of coaches are doing that. And I think the ability of this staff to continue to be on the cutting edge of roster transformation in college athletics is why they've made 25 straight NCAA tournaments, 9 straight Sweet 16s. Like they're not doing that by sheer luck, or they're not doing it by just being the biggest budget school. They're not doing it the way that like Arkansas football has succeeded, or Alabama football, excuse me. They're not doing it that way. And I think that because of that, there's no real reason to assume that even if they become at a disadvantage with future NIL or conference realignment, like the Zags are going to continue to survive and they're going to continue to adapt because they always have. And that's effectively what Mark Few was saying here. Well, Mark Few did spend most of this press conference talking about the Olympics, talking about his time as an assistant coach, relearning what it's like to be an assistant coach, working with the best of the best in LeBron James and Steph Curry and all of that. He also talked about the day-to-day operations in Spokane while he's gone and coaching against his former players. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. All right, folks, segment 3, still Andy Patton, still Locked On Zags podcast, and we're still talking Mark Few and the press conference that he had a couple of days ago as you're listening to this on Thursday, talking about a whole variety of different things in this press conference, but the majority of the conversations were about his upcoming opportunity to be an assistant coach with Team USA in the 2024 Olympic Games in Paris, France. He's coaching alongside Steve Kerr is the head coach there. Eric Spoelstra, former University of Portland player, the head coach, longtime head coach of the Miami Heat. Tyronn Lue is an assistant coach there as well. And so Mark Few was asked a lot of questions about working with those guys and getting to represent the country on the national stage and various other kind of questions on that topic. And I didn't get to all of them here. Like I said, I'll post a link to the whole press conference in the show notes. Definitely check it out if you're interested. He had a lot of really good things to say about just the opportunity to represent the country and how important it is to him. But I didn't put all those quotes in here because he talked for 25 minutes, so we can't do a 30-minute show breaking it all down if we have all of his quotes in here. But he did talk specifically about what it's going to look like with him being gone in Spokane. And I'll read what he said here. He said, they've, referring to the assistant coaches, stepped up in a huge way. They're ready for that. That's the beauty of our staff is we've got guys with tons of experience. It's good for them. Actually, it's great for them to assume that responsibility, and that's what we are doing right now. It's good for them. It's good for the program because the players get to hear their voices, which is kind of how we do it here. We check in every day pretty much in some form. He also made a joke about the time zone being a bit of a challenge with that. But this is, I think, encouraging. And I think people had some concern that last offseason when Mark Few was gone for large chunks of it, working with the FIBA team in preparation for the Olympics, that, obviously last year's offseason did not go as well as this offseason. That's not even remotely a controversial statement. Last year, the team lost key contributors in Hunter Salas. They lost Efton Reed. They lost Dominic Harris to the transfer portal. Late in the offseason, Alex Tui decommitted. Caden Perry suffered a medical injury. Marcus Adams Jr. came and went like a blink of an eye. Like, they added Luka Krajinovic in I think August. They added Pavle Stosic in mid-September. Like, it was an insane offseason. And a lot of that people have attributed to Mark Few not being around. And there's been some conversation of players had to tell assistant coaches that they were entering the transfer portal because Mark Few wasn't there. I don't know exactly what happened last year. I wasn't privy to all of those conversations and that aspect of things, but Mark Few made it clear here that A, he's communicating with his staff every day. B, he's going to be there for the first part of summer workouts and the assistant coaches are going to take over in the second part of summer workouts, and that he has complete faith in them and their ability, and he thinks it's good for the program to hear his assistant coaches' voices. I also think him giving a lot of autonomy to his assistant coaches is good for the program, for just continuity's sake when he is gone, that things continue to run like a well-oiled machine. Also, the proof is in the pudding in the sense that coaches who leave Gonzaga to go get head coaching jobs elsewhere tend to succeed. Leon Rice, tons of success at Boise State, the most prolific coach in Boise State basketball history, unquestionably. Tommy Lloyd having a fantastic time at Arizona, struggled a bit in the NCAA tournament, but for an assistant coach who'd never been a head coach, the success that he has had at Arizona is impeccable, remarkable. Roger Powell having some success at where he is right now. I'm trying to think of where it is. Valparaiso. I knew I'd get there eventually. Like, the reason that those coaches have success is not just learning from Mark Few, but getting opportunities to kind of step up and take on more roles than maybe assistant coaches get to do at other places. So I think Mark Few is kind of alluding to that by saying it's not a big deal that I'm going to be gone because I'm still going to be in contact and these guys can handle it. They're here, they're experienced, they're ready to roll. This is good for them, good for me, good for the players. And I think he's absolutely right. Mark Few also had a good quote about talking about playing against former players. Specifically, he said I'll just read his quote here. He said, "It was strange last year facing Kelly. You're rooting for him, but obviously you want to win that game." He's referring to the FIBA tournament. Kelly Olynyk, of course, playing for the Team Canada. The Team Canada 20-man training camp roster was released on Wednesday, a few hours before I hit the record button here. It's going to get whittled down to 12. It's a 20-man roster right now. Both Kelly Olynyk and Andrew Nembhard are on the roster and are both near locks to be on the 12-man roster when that thing comes out. There's no reason, barring an injury or something like that those two players wouldn't be on that team. And Mark Few talked about that too. He said, quote, "And with Andrew on there now, it'll be even stranger. We got to win that game, but at the same time, you're rooting for those guys in every other game." And there's some other quotes too. Again, I didn't get to all of them. Domantas Sabonis, potentially playing for Lithuania if they qualify. At this time right now, unclear if Rui is going to represent Japan or not. But Mark Few is potentially going to get an opportunity to face a lot of his former players. And I think it is, he kind of talked about how, it's weird in the moment of like you're trying to beat them, but you're also rooting for them. But it's incredible testament to the program. And again, he talked about this a bit of like that there are former Gonzaga players representing multiple different countries. It's a testament not only to the success of the players who've come through Gonzaga, but the fact that they have been an international program. Not only that their players are good enough to represent their countries, but that they have had so many players come through who represent their countries. Filip Petrusev is representing Serbia, You know, I mean, again, Sabonis and Rui, we talk about those guys. Like, it is a huge testament to this program's success that they have internationals on the team now. Jun Suk Yeo from South Korea. Of course, they just got Diani from Senegal. Like, they have continued to utilize international recruiting to their success. And as long as that happens, we will continue to be able to talk about multiple Gonzaga players every time the Olympics roll around, which is pretty fun. Last quote here from Mark Few. He was asked about what he takes away from being around the other coaches on that staff. Like I said, Steve Kerr, multiple-time NBA champion coach with the Golden State Warriors. Eric Spoelstra, multiple-time champion with the Miami Heat. Tyronn Lue's had a lot of success at various stops as a coach as well. Mark Few's quote here, he says, I take away tons of stuff. We incorporated some stuff last year, offensive actions, defensive actions, approaches to film sessions, everything. You get us all together in a group, and it's a great learning environment for all of us, I think. I would love to be, and he's never going to answer this, I'd be curious what things they did implement last year that they got from some of those coaches. Like, did Spoelstra tell him something that he found out would work with his personnel offensively? Like, I'm just curious. And again, I don't think we'll ever actually know the answer to that, but it's cool to know that this is one of the things I've thought about with Mark Few doing this and participating, is like, he gets to be around some of the best coaches in the world. And, you know, Mark Few obviously himself is one of the best coaches in the world. And I think that there is a way that his philosophies and his teachings can impact even NBA coaches. But as somebody who runs an NBA style offense at the college level, he has a lot that he could potentially gain from them. And it sounds like he takes advantage of that opportunity and really tries to gain stuff from it. I think like approach to film sessions is something that totally makes sense. It's like, hey, we're going to attack this a little differently this year and see if it works, see if, you know, how certain guys might respond to a different way of watching film and kind of gaining information from that. So I think that's a really cool thing. And I was happy to hear him talk a little bit about that, because I think some of the focus on Mark Few coaching the Olympics has been negative from Gonzaga fans, of like, oh, like he's gone for part of the offseason. And again, being gone last year and last year's offseason not going well, those things being paired together kind of contributed to that. And I understand why, but there's a lot to be gained from Mark Few working with these coaches and working with LeBron James and Steph Curry and all those greats on that roster. And I think he feels that, he acknowledges that. And I think it's important for us to remember too. Folks, I'm incredibly excited that I basically get to cover the Olympics this year, at least from the basketball side, men's side, women's side, with Yvonne Ejim representing Canada. It's going to be fantastic. That's going to be a lot of the coverage we get to later this summer when those Olympics roll around. So really excited to get that opportunity to talk about that. That is going to wrap it up for me today here on the Locked On Zags podcast, though. Be back on Friday with a guest coming on the show to talk WCC hoops. Look out for that. Back next week as we get into the NBA draft, more about Anton Watson, more about what that's going to look like for him, all coming up next week on Locked On Zags. Thanks again for listening. And until next time, as always, go Zags.
What do the Coachella Valley Firebirds need to do to take the series lead as the AHL Calder Cup final returns to the desert? We'll talk about that and more on today's episode of Locked On Kraken. You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hey, what do you say, Seattle hockey fans? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you your favorite team every single day. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by FanDuel. You can make every moment more, because right now, new customers over at FanDuel will get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. If we're meeting for the first time, hello, my name is Erica L. Ayala. I am a sports writer, multimedia sports journalist. I, in addition to hosting Locked On Kraken, am a contributor to CBS Sports. I've written for the New York Times, the Washington Post, and yes, your Seattle Kraken before they were even the Seattle Kraken, or I guess just as they were becoming the Seattle Kraken. Either way, I am glad to be here with you on a game day. That's right. The Coachella Valley Firebirds will host the the Hershey Bears as the Calder Cup finals march along. The series is tied, but you can see tonight's game, 7 p.m. Pacific time, and you can watch on AHL TV or listen on 100.6 The Eagle. And we're going to give you some keys to the game today. If you listened to yesterday's or watched yesterday's episode, I alluded to some things that, a few of the guys, including Shane Wright, can actually do better and probably need to do better in this game. But there are a few things that really stand out to me. Right now, the series is tied 1-1. The Firebirds got the opening win against the Hershey Bears, and then Hershey got a pretty dominant win. Lots of mistakes. I don't want to say necessarily uncharacteristic mistakes, but definitely fixable and undisciplined mistakes by the Firebirds. The good news, though, Kraken and Firebirds fans, is that throughout the entire AHL playoffs, the Firebirds are 6-0 at home, and they are 11-3 overall in their 14 games. So this is a team that knows how to put wins together. They swept the Reign. We know that. The Admirals got one back, and then it was a bounce back game. They dropped too early to Calgary, but we've talked about that being likely because they had an extended break. And if you're an everydayer or an OGer, you actually heard Jessica Campbell in an exclusive interview with me talk a little bit about that and how you got to get the bounce back. And so really, we haven't seen this team, except for that Calgary series, lose in consecutive games. And so I think they have a lot of potential, but they have to make some corrections. And that includes, as much as we love talking about Jessica Campbell, and we do here, and we will continue to do so likely whenever the offseason for the Firebirds comes to pass, and hopefully beyond that, depending on where she lands. But there are a few things that we really just have to talk about when it comes to the Firebirds. If we look at all of the teams in the AHL that played at some level in the playoffs, the Firebirds have the 15th best power play at just shy of 18%. And they have the 14th best penalty kill. Now, we talked about it yesterday and a few episodes ago that we are seeing the Firebirds connect. John Hayden had our most recent shorthanded goal. They almost had a shorthanded goal against the Hershey Bears in game 2. So there's a lot of potential. The finish just isn't there. If you were with us, we had special guest Ann Kimmel for our watch along. We're going to do another one Thursday night, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on the show and of course on our Thursday episode. But it just is the finish. The opportunities are there. The finish is not. And the Coachella Valley Firebirds have to be able to execute just a little bit better. I know that one of our longtime listeners, our OGers, and a member of our Locked On Kraken Insider, Striatic, was a part of the chat. And there were two things that Striatic mentioned. One specific to a player, but I think broadly speaking, there was a little bit of hero hockey, especially late in the game. It felt at times like the Firebirds were just kind of trying to push the issue. And sometimes that's when you don't get the usual finish. And then we also noticed a few things regarding Shane Wright. And I talked about it a little bit yesterday, but I want to get back into this. Now, remember, Shane Wright was injured and didn't play really in most of the playoffs. But he was back in the lineup. And I can tell you that, he missed some assignments in the face-off dot that turned out to be costly. And that's just something that you don't want to see. Now, he's only played 8 games, including the last 2 in the Calder Cup playoffs. He's got 6 points, 2 goals, and 4 assists. But I think he's got to be a little bit better at the face-off dot. So that's what I really want to see for him. I think we know that he has potential to be an NHL caliber centerman, and it's tough to come back off of an injury, an injury that had him out for a significant amount of time. So you're getting your timing, you're getting your touch, and you're getting your feel for your teammates back. But if I had to really look at something, he's a -2 on the plus minus. Again, only 8 games. So not a big sample size, but, I do want to see Shane Wright ramp it up. I think that he was in the right spots at time. We did see a net front presence for the Firebirds, which both Ann and I really liked. And that's something that has to continue for the Firebirds. But if I'm giving you 3 keys to tonight's game, it's you gotta be more disciplined. Everything from the lack of communication. Chris Drieger went to play a puck behind the net. I don't know that he had a really great understanding of the timing and the rush that was coming toward him. But also, if you're the Firebirds, in my estimation, 2 things need to happen in that situation. Either one of the other skaters has to tell Chris, hands off, we'll handle the puck. But if you're not going to do that, if he's the best player to handle the puck in that moment, you have to, at minimum, communicate to Chris that the attack is coming. It just felt like he was very much thrown off guard. He didn't know how much time he had, and it left him kind of looking like he had his pants at his ankles. It was not a good look for Chris Drieger, but I don't necessarily blame that on Chris. That's a team thing. The good thing is that it's preventable, but it's just communication. I talked about on the stream also missed defensive assignments where you had players that were streaking from center ice that got to the spot before skaters that were kind of just skating along with the Hershey Bears at times. And they made a clinical pass, and that ended up being a really important goal. You really got to hustle. I have complimented this team defensively, and they just didn't have it. So overall, the discipline and the communication, I'm kind of bundling those 2 together. I think special teams have to be better. I told you they've got the 14th best PK in all of the playoffs, and the 2nd best in this series, because the Hershey Bears are at an 84% clip on the PK. That's 9th overall in the total playoffs among playoff teams. And they have the 8th best, power play. If we skate 5-on-5, again, that goes back to discipline. We are the better team. I really do believe that, but we have to prove it. So special teams has to improve. I'm really looking to see what Jessica Campbell can do here. And I alluded to it also. My 3rd thing is just be really relentless, not just in the faceoff dot, but with those 50-50 pucks. I want to see the Firebirds really hunting the puck. I think just like we see with the Seattle Kraken, this organization from the ECHL, we've talked to Tato Hat about this, all the way up to the NHL, we know this team, this franchise wants to play fast. They want to forecheck. And, we have the 3 Fs that we usually talk about with the Seattle Kraken, but I think it goes hand in hand. I want to see a strong forecheck, and I want to see a little bit more lightness. This is a team that when they attack, they skate their best. They play their best style of hockey. They want to command the game. We saw that a little bit in the 3rd period when I believe it was the Marianne Studenich goal. And that was just right off the hop early in the 3rd period. And they got after it. They really attacked the 3rd early. They attacked the 1st early, even though Hershey did score first in game 1 and game 2. But they have to attack. They have to have that fun. They have to be playing fun, fast, and of course, forechecking. So I want to see the 3 Fs. I want to see improvements on special teams, and I need more discipline. That's what's going to get the win for the Coachella Valley Firebirds. Of course, the bonus, I feel like it's not really a bonus. It should be unspoken at this moment, is that you are going to have a home crowd. And this is a hockey-loving community in the Valley. And of course, it doesn't hurt that you have the voice of the Coachella Valley Firebirds, Jason JD Hernandez, reminding you to get fired up. It's going to be a good game. I look forward to being able to recap what I'm hoping will be a win, of course, for the Coachella Valley Firebirds on our Wednesday show. But for the remainder of today's show, I'm actually going to take you over to our friends at Locked On NHL Prospects. Now, you heard me make the case for Zev Buyum yesterday. He is my pick in the Locked On NHL mock draft, but I also mentioned some other players, or really one other player that I thought could be a good fit. I want you to hear what our friends over at Locked On NHL Prospects have to say about the top picks for defenders in our Locked On NHL mock draft. And then we'll close out the show, of course, getting you ready for tonight's game, but also asking you the question of the day. After you've heard about the top defensive prospects, is Zev Buyum still the best pick for the Seattle Kraken? At least in our mock draft. That's the question of the day. I'm going to give you some information so you can answer in the comments. Let me know. You can also follow me at Black Rosie Media, or of course at Locked On Kraken. Let me know what you think about Zev and some of the other prospects who we'll talk about in the coming days, coming weeks, because we've got the real deal NHL draft coming up. But next, I want you to hear from our folks over at Locked On NHL Prospects about some of the top D players that were selected in the Locked On NHL mock draft. Mentioned it at the top of the show, but today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Now, we know that summertime is a time for the beach. It's time for relaxing, but it's also time to crown champions. We are looking to do that in the AHL. We know that the NBA already has one. Congratulations to the Boston Celtics, but you can still wager on the NHL Stanley Cup final. Can the Florida Panthers close out the series? Who's going to be a top performer, or will Edmonton push the series longer? Well, you can find some of the odds over at FanDuel, and new customers right now, you get $200 in bonus bets with any winning bet of at least $5. That's $200 if you can bet everything from MVP to scoring lines, assists, saves, all of that you can find on FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and add a big win to your summer bucket list. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Wishing you luck. Remember to gamble, of course, responsibly. Erica L. Ayala here, your host of Locked On Kraken. And as promised, I'm going to take you over to the segment where you get to hear from our experts on Locked On NHL Prospects about the picks for the top defenders. The first 16, we're really focused kind of on the first 11 because we're focused on D-men. But here is the list of the NHL mock draft, and you will hear our host Hadi and Sebastian walk through that in just a moment. So without further ado, let me take you over to yesterday's episode of Locked On NHL Prospects, where they break down the first 16 picks in the NHL, the Locked On NHL mock draft.
Overall here, we've got an interesting selection from the Anaheim Ducks, selecting Artyom Levshinov, possibly the prospect that everyone's expecting to go at least in the top 3. And I think the Anaheim Ducks really need a right-handed defenseman, a right-handed player overall. And in terms of right-handed Ds, Levshinov's up there with the best. I mean, he's so toolsy. He's the most mobile, rangy defenseman not named Anton Salayev in this draft. I love the ability to close gaps in transition. I love the energy, the effort level, the aggression that he brings. He's got fantastic work ethic. He's a funny guy. He's a great person. Interviews really well. Ticks a lot of boxes for NHL GMs. On top of that, he's got some sneaky offensive skill. I mean, he's got a bomb of a shot. Pretty interesting hands in a pinch. You know, he doesn't really flash stick handling skill all that often, but when he needs to get out of trouble, he can do it. Great passing ability as well. He's a player who does need to kind of shape up his decision making, get a bit more consistent with his reads. But I think the habits are something you can work with, especially offensively. He's always jumping into rushes. He's always kind of beating opponents to open ice on the weak side in transition. There's a bunch of stuff to work with Artyom Levshinov. So I think this is a great selection at 3rd overall. There's a couple defensemen that I prefer personally, just based on what I look for in defensemen, but Levshinov's about as sure a bet for the NHL as you get at this range. And yeah, I understand fully the Anaheim Ducks going for him because the other options in terms of right-handed players, I'd say are probably going to be available around 7, 8, 9, 10. Levshinov's not passing 5, that's for sure. Moving on to number 6, we have got the Locked On Utah unnamed team. Yeah, I think it's Utah HC. Has it been officially confirmed yet? Regardless.
I mean, for the first season, yes.
Yeah, exactly. But Utah HC picks up Zane Perek, the right-handed defenseman of the Saginaw Spirit in the OHL. He's my top-ranked defenseman, incredibly mobile, incredibly capable with the puck. He's composure personified. His ability to just stay calm under pressure is ridiculous. He's a true definition of a quarterback in all 3 zones. What I mean by that is he dictates which direction the play takes. That's the most interesting part for me of Zane Perek's game, is that he's the one controlling play almost at all times. And when he's not controlling play, I think his defense isn't even half as bad as being made out to be. The tape I watched in the OHL playoffs and in the Memorial Cup, like he was shutting down some of the CHL's top forwards, right? Like that wasn't bad tape from Perek defensively.
It's not. Like, he still has a lot of raw habits in his defensive play, but he plays with a high motor. He's quite vicious quite often. Like, he plays with some violence. He's 6 feet, 178 pounds. He's not tiny by any stretch of the imagination. Like, I could see him topping out at like 195, 200 when he's a full-time NHLer. Which is perfectly fine, especially when you are such a dynamic offensive defenseman, with which Zane Perek is. There's definitely some consistency issues defensively in terms of engagement. He can be a little bit of a passenger at times in the defensive zone, but there's nothing there aren't many things there that I don't see as fixable or as like things that can be progressed a significant amount with targeted development. And I think that Utah would be a very fun franchise for him to land in. I mean, as a first draft selection after the move, Zane Perek is like as entertaining and dynamic a player as you could hope to get.
Yeah, I think with Zane Perek with the offense, I mean, if he develops properly, works on his defense a bit, I see a point per game defenseman. Like, there's real offensive potential with him.
And if he's playing with Dmitry Simashev of all people, ooh, as
you've got the perfect
picks, that's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. You got the perfect insulator for him long term. A player who's going to be able to kind of allow him a bit more freedom offensively. Let's move on to 7th overall. We have the Ottawa Senators, Locked On Sens, picking up Sam Dickinson, the big left-handed defenseman out of the London Knights in the OHL. What a fantastic run he's had this season in the OHL. Was a key player for London throughout the entire OHL playoffs, and almost won them the game in the Memorial Cup final. Like, he was one of the main reasons why London was able to stay with the game up until overtime. He scored the game time goal for London on a half breakaway as a defenseman. Like, that's kind of a testament to what kind of game he plays. Dickinson is all aggression. Like, defensively, he's in your face. He's punishing. He's hitting you. He's making plays with a stick that I don't think other defensemen in this draft are capable of. For me, he's the best defensive defenseman in this draft. On top of having real aggression offensively, he's jumping into rushes. He's flying up the ice, carrying pucks himself, or playing kind of give and goes, moving off the puck. A lot of really interesting habits offensively, but I think he's that pure aggression kind of holds him back at times, right?
For sure. There's definitely a bit of a lack of composure at times or of calculated decision making and timing. For instance, he just defaults to being aggressive, which is really entertaining and works fantastically with his frame and his mobility at the OHL level, but will need some tinkering before he makes the jump to professional hockey. But this is a 6'3", 203-pound defenseman who skates like the wind, put up over a point a game while playing second pairing minutes on both the power play and even strength for London this season. And of course, it was a tremendous team, but still, minutes-wise, it was more limited than most other high-end draft-eligible defensemen in the CHL. And he's a two-way guy who's mainly like loved for his defensive impact. So going over a point a game with those parameters is very impressive as well. So definitely growing room in his offensive development. A true two-way potential piece. I think be very interesting for the Ottawa Senators, who already have some very strong pieces on their left side. I could see them moving Thomas Chabot at some point in the next couple seasons, and Jacob Chikrin as well. But like Jake Sanderson and Sam Dickinson as the crux of the defensive core, like holding down the left side long term, is really, really enticing.
For sure. Moving on to 8th overall, we have Zeev Buium going to the Locked On Kraken. The Seattle Kraken picking him up. Their 8th overall pick here. An average size left-handed defenseman. He was measured in at 6 foot, which is good for his game and good for NHL teams wanting to pick him up maybe earlier than he's projected. He's the calmest and most poised defenseman in this draft, even more than Zane Parekh. He's got left offensive skill, I would say, for sure. But there's still some really interesting stuff he does offensively. The way he moves from the point, the way he shifts forwards in front of him, forwards who are trying to kind of stick check him and try to get a breakaway. You're not getting the puck off of him. It's ridiculous how good he is at that. And he has those clutch genes all season. This has been one of the most consistently clutch players in the 2024 NHL draft class. Scored the insurance goal in the gold medal game of the World Juniors for Team USA, assisted on the insurance goal in Denver University's national championship game. So just been full on money all season, 50 points in 42 games. Like, just ridiculous production, something we've never seen before from an NCAA freshman. And he's good defensively. Like, he's genuinely so good defensively. I've loved his ability to close gaps off the rush, make plays defensively. It's been amazing to watch all year. 11th overall, Locked On Sabres pick up Carter Yakimchuk, right-handed defenseman of the Calgary Hitmen. He's aggression personified, right? Like, everything about his game is all about being aggressive, correct?
Absolutely. He's aggressive with the puck on his stick. He is a really good puck handler, and he uses that as much as he possibly can to advance the puck up the ice. Defensively, he plays with violence and physicality and, again, aggression. He really is aggression personified. He's a 6'3", 202-pound right shot defenseman with really significant offensive potential. He has an absolute bomb of a shot from the point. He uses his puck handling to access dangerous areas in the offensive zone and thread pucks towards the slot. There's a real lack of refinement in most areas of his game, and the upside here is a bit more longer term, especially for like a top 11 type of draft pick. He's going to need 3 to 4 to 5 years to develop into a trustable NHL player. But if he absolutely hits, you're looking at your number 2 big, violent offensive defenseman who might need some insulation at 5-on-5 because he's at his best when he's taking big risks, but just a really, really fun player here. And while the floor is a little bit lower, the upside's definitely enticing.
For sure. I want to see, I like composure in my defense, which is why I'm a bit lower on Yakimchuk than others. But listen, in terms of offensive upside, he's up there with the best.
So you heard what our experts had to say. Question of the day is, after everything you heard about the top defensemen, at least as they are in our mock draft, how do you like the pick of Zeev Buium at number 8 for the Seattle Kraken? Coming up next, I want to get into that a little bit more and also get you primed for maybe some players that I would consider, particularly on the defensive side, but maybe also forwards as well. That's coming up on today's episode of Locked On Kraken. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken is brought to you by our friends at Policy Genius. We know that life can be very, very unpredictable, but a good life insurance plan can give you and your family a financial safety net to protect against some of those unknowns. Policy Genius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It makes choosing the right policy for your family quick and easy. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options are 100% online and let you avoid unnecessary medical exams. Policy Genius helps you easily compare your options from America's top insurers in just a few clicks. Their award-winning agents can even walk you through the process step by step. Policy Genius has no incentive to recommend one insurer over another, so you can trust their guidance. They have thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot from customers who found the best fit for their needs. So get peace of mind by finding the right life insurance policy with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com or click on the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. Again, that's policygenius.com. All right, Seattle hockey fans, it's a game day in the Valley. The Coachella Valley Firebirds taking on the Hershey Bears in Game 3. In case you missed it, earlier in the show, I gave you my 3 keys. And of course, the 3 keys ended with the 3 Fs. Fun, fast, and forechecking. Also want to see special teams improve and overall, and then why it's my number 1 key to the game. You got to be more disciplined, Coachella Valley. I know you have it in you. So let's put our best skate forward, if you will, and take it to the Hershey Bears so we can get ever closer to closing out that unfinished business. Speaking of unfinished business, you heard from Locked On NHL prospects, Hattie and Sebastian, breaking down the top defensemen in our Locked On NHL mock draft. Again, the question of the day is, do you still believe in my pick of Zev Buyum at number 8 in our mock draft? I'm going to tell you, there's some other names on that list. Here's the list once again for those watching on YouTube. There's some names on that list that I do like. I mentioned Zane Perek yesterday. You know, Iginla is an interesting name, not a defenseman, but we're talking mostly about defensemen. But overall, I do like, and I'm sticking with my pick of Zev Buyum. Now, I would be lying if I said I'm not intrigued by having a little bit more size. And there are some players in the draft. The Yakimchuk comes to mind. Definitely a player I looked at. But overall, given what some of our experts who know the prospects, who are following, the lower levels or the junior levels, of hockey, these draft eligible players, I still like the pick of Zev Buyum. I talked a little bit about some of the character traits that I really think are intriguing. He is the one who pushed the issue of hockey. I like how he approaches things, and I've listened to some of his interviews, and we'll play some of those clips in the days leading up to the draft, because there's just something about this young hockey player. He has a confidence, and that comes because he has put in the work. And that's the kind of work ethic that we need more of in the Seattle Kraken organization, not only because we're still in our bootstrapping era, right? We're still in our bootstrapping era, but also that's what's going to build a championship team and a championship pipeline. And that's what I want for the Firebirds, for the Mavericks, and of course, for the Seattle Kraken. So again, question of the day, are you still with me? Or I guess I could also ask, were you ever with me? What do you think about Zev Buyum? Zev. I'm going to get it right. I believe it's Zev Buyum. What do you like about Buyum? Do you still think I should pick him at number 8 in our Locked On NHL mock draft? With the caveat that, again, at least 7 players were not available to me when I made the pick. That being said, even if some of those players were available, especially at the defensive side of things, I think I'm still going with Zev. That being said, I want to break down also what our experts over at Locked On NHL Prospects are saying about some of the forwards. I'm pretty confident that if I were the general manager, I would pick a defenseman, especially given the defensemen that are in this draft and expected or projected to go within the top 10. I like that. However, I want to entertain the idea later on this week, if there's any other player that maybe I would select at 8 if I wasn't, as I am, committed to selecting a defenseman. You'll have to stick around here at Locked On Kraken throughout the week to find out the answer. But again, question of the day, do you still like Zev Buyum at number 8 for our Locked On NHL mock draft? That's going to do it for our show. You know how we end. Be kind to yourselves. Be kind to one another. Hold fast. Stay true. We say loud and proud always, let's go Kraken. But that starts tonight with a Firebirds chant of get fired up. And if you're in Acrisure Arena, you'll get to hear JD Hernandez say that. But no.
Welcome to our streaming channel. Here you can catch up on all the latest news, weather, and sports you need. Plus countless hours of fresh, original content you can watch at any speed. Everything you love about local, plus so much more.
Daily Blast Live is more than a talk show. They're family. The hosts are relatable, entertaining, and authentic. We're all going to be like, what? Engaging the audience with powerful stories and talking to the stars.
Turn up the notch on that.
It's like I'm on the verge of tears.
Thank you so much for doing this.
It's so interesting.
It's time to be a part of the DBL family.
I'm so proud of our DBL Nation.
Me too. Watch DBL on our station's streaming app.
The day's biggest stories in the news.
Spotting disinformation during an election year can be tough. Verify is your resource for the facts you need to understand what's true and what's false. From spotting artificial intelligence and manipulated social media to fact-checking claims from the candidates, get the facts with Verify.
Julie was always a voracious reader. She'd carry 2 novels on an airplane because she'd read one on a 3-4 hour ride. And at some point, I began to notice that she would read a page and couldn't remember what